example of emotional labour just yesterday. I'll tag the original video below, but also I'll do a little summary here. So basically, this woman was saying that in her relationship with her ex-husband, all she needed to meet his needs was for him to say that that was something that was important to him. And if it was important to him, then that would be enough for it to be important to her because she loved him. Obviously, she would need to have the capacity to meet those needs. And she did say in the video, you know, it's not like she always did that perfectly, but generally, like, she was ready to meet his needs because they were important to him, therefore they were important to her. Whereas he was not ready to meet her needs in that way. In order for him to meet her needs, he would have to really fully understand why it was important to her and why it should be important to him. So for her to get him to fulfill her needs, she would have to use the exact right wording to express the need, and she would have to make the exact right case. She would have to really justify why he should care about fulfilling this need for her. So that creates like unequal emotional labor, right? Because all he has to do is say, oh, this is really important to me, could you please do this? And as long as it's within her capacity and it's not harmful to her, then, you know, she would try and do it. But the other way around, it's like she's having to really fight to make sure that he doesn't just dismiss her needs out of hand because it's not like totally, you know, logical in his own mind. And obviously that's like a really hurtful thing. It's hurtful to feel like, oh, my partner's default setting is to dismiss my needs unless I really, really make my case. And it creates a lot of extra work. And it means that she was anticipating having these conversations in advance and having to decide, like, will I bother asking for these needs to be met? Or should I try and do it a different way because it's going to be too much work to try and get him to understand? So that's one example of emotional labour. Another example of emotional labour that quite a lot of women say that they've experienced in their relationships is that, like, they have to end up doing a lot of the sort of caregiving work for their husband's extended family as well as their own extended family. So let's say, for example, that the husband's aunt dies. It's the wife who ends up, you know, getting and writing the card, sending the flowers, and then at the funeral doing a lot of the kind of the hugging and the caregiving. But if her own aunt died, these women were finding that they were still doing all of that work themselves for their own family as well as their extended family. It wasn't like, oh, I'm taking this burden off my husband because he's grieving. It was just an expectation that, like, this is your role. You do all of this stuff when this kind of stuff happens. So that's another example. Now, there are lots of different examples of emotional labour. And obviously, emotional labour is something that every single person has done at some point, right? Emotional labour is essentially just like work that is emotional. And it tends to be about like making space for other people's emotions and needs as well as your own. That tends to be what emotional labour is about, which again is something everyone has to do at some point, right? Like, we're all social creatures. But a lot of women report an imbalance in that emotional labour, that they do a lot more emotional labour than their partner. I'm not totally sure where you would have got the thing about how it can be used as a term to shame people for having emotions. My guess is that it might be that you've heard of a dynamic where someone tries to like share their feelings about something and the other person responds like, well, you know, I can't listen to this, I can't be your therapist, this is too much emotional labour for me. And that's a really difficult one, right? Because I think there are a lot of men out there who have experiences of trying to share. Sorry, my light just stopped working. I'm charging it now, but it won't work for a bit. So I think a lot of men have these experiences where they try and share their emotions with a woman in their lives, and the woman is really like not open to receiving it, because I think that a lot of men and women are socialized to just not expect that level of emotional sensitivity of a man, and then a lot of women find it off-putting when they see it. And that's not me condoning it. Like, I think that's really, really sad. But I do think it's a result of gender roles and socialization and things, because it's like, if you expect men to be like tough and stoic all the time, then like you are just like not ready to hold space for their emotions in that way. But then there are lots of other situations, right, where there's a fine line between wanting to share your emotions with someone and have them be there for you, and then like expecting them to manage your emotions for you. It's a really fine line. I've definitely experienced that from both men and women in my lives, where it's like, you know, it's not just that they're sharing their emotions with me, it's that like I'm kind of, you know, an almost unending well of affirmations and support and soothing and kind of you know, telling them whatever they need to hear, and they're not doing their emotional regulating themselves. They're like looking to me to constantly regulate their emotions, and it just like never stops. And it's really hard, if we're hearing a story online, it's really hard to know whether it was one case or the other. And also I think sometimes people themselves might misinterpret a situation and think, oh, they're using me to emotionally regulate, when actually they weren't. They were just, you know, looking for a bit of a shoulder to cry on. So I think that's a really difficult one. I think that it can be like really easy. It's a fine line anyway. I think it's a really fine line to cross. And it's really hard sometimes to know when it has been crossed, especially if you're hearing a story like secondhand.
The entire emotional load in my marriage, it didn't come in some big dramatic argument. It came 7 months ago in the quiet. So I remember sitting in my room thinking something is very wrong here, because I was exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. So I asked my husband for space, separate rooms. Thankfully, we were able to do that. We needed a pause so we could actually see what was real, not what we were pretending to hold together. And once the silence settled, that's when it clicked. I had been carrying every emotional responsibility in this relationship. Every single one. What we eat, what needs to be bought, inventory in the house, kids' schedules, schoolwork, finances, birthdays, appointments, every plan, every hard conversation, every moment of emotional maintenance. If something needed to be addressed, I was the one who brought it up. If there was a conflict, I was the one making the repair attempts. If there was debt to be created, I was the one creating it. There were nights I would come home and tell him something that happened at work, and he would just sit there, nodding silently. And I'd literally have to ask him if he had an opinion on what I just shared. Who wants to do that? Who wants to beg their partner to show up as a partner? So when we separated into our own rooms, I made one decision that changed everything. I wasn't bridging the emotional gap anymore. Not one more time. If he wanted to talk, he was going to have to come to me. If he wanted to fix anything, he would have to step forward, because I had spent 16 years walking across that emotional bridge by myself. 16 years carrying conversations, problem solving, emotional repair, connection, everything. And in that silence, in that space, do you know what I got back? More silence, avoidance, sometimes even attitude. And that's when the truth hit me in the stomach. I wasn't in a partnership. I had never been. I was in an emotional labor contract I never signed. And I was fucking devastated. Because once you see it, there is no unseeing it. You can't go back to pretending that crumbs are connection. You can't convince yourself you're asking for too much when the reality is you've been accepting too little. But here's the part I want you to hear clearly. I'm talking to you. Once I stopped carrying his half of the relationship, I finally had the energy to carry myself. My grounding, my emotional clarity, my peace, my future. And when you stop over-functioning for someone, their under-functioning becomes impossible to ignore. And so if you're in that place where the emotional load is like crushing you and you're starting to realize you've been holding the whole damn thing together with toilet tissue and bubble gum, you're not crazy and you're not broken. You're just waking up. If you want to dive deeper into topics like these, join me in the speakeasy at the link in my bio.
To load, one of the biggest complaints that women have typically is that their partner will say, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. And that in itself is obviously a mental load, but not only is it a mental load, it's very frustrating because oftentimes they have said what they need or what to do. They've said, hey, it'd be really helpful if every day you emptied the dishwasher or if you could get the kids ready. And then what happens is the partner either forgets, doesn't know how to do it, continues to ask how to do it, or requires their partner to tell them every single time. So they can't just tell them one time, they have to tell them every time. And so when you say, just tell me what to do, it doesn't actually feel like you are participating. It's as if you are asking your partner to instruct you and guide you the whole way. And today in my home, I found the example of the reverse of that, because men will often say, like, how often do you change your oil, or do you do X, Y, Z for your home? Do you know how to change the air filters, etc.? And if I told you how to do it, would you know how to do it every single time? And today in my house, I was turning the air on because I was cold, and I know because last year we had some trouble with turning the heat on that if you don't shut the breaker off for the AC, it can cause something to like trip. And so before I turned on the heat, I went to the basement and I flipped the breaker for the AC. And when my husband came home, he was like, oh my gosh, you have the heat on. Like, you don't know about the breaker. Yes, I do, because you told me. You told me last year, if I want to switch from the AC to the heat when the fall comes, I need to shut the breaker off. So I did. I shut the breaker off. And this is no different than me saying to a partner, our baby's nap is at 9 a.m. Can you please make sure she naps at 9 a.m.? If I told you this on Monday, this is still true on Saturday. I should not have to reiterate it every single time, right? This was an entire year. My partner did not have to remind me. I remembered because I'm an adult. And typically you don't have to tell me something 10 times for me to do it. And this is what women are typically asking of their male partners in these heteronormative relationships. We are asking that when we do tell you something, when we hand you it on a platter and say, this is what it is, this is what we need from you, that you take that, you listen to it, and you actually do it, and that you remember it, and don't have to continue asking and requiring us to expend our mental energy for you to do that task.
Agree, or if your experience is different, then add it in the comments. Please try and put your thinking caps on and try and listen to the end, because if you don't, you're going to think I hate men or I hate women, and the truth is I hate both people. I'm just joking, right? But let's start with the male perspective, because I don't think it's often expressed like really clearly. So a lot of men hear women say we do the emotional labor, and they genuinely don't understand what that means. And if they did, they probably would disagree heavily anyway, because frankly, here is my perspective, right? The average man feels like he has to walk on eggshells when it comes to women's emotions, and that they have to manage it almost like they handle children. So here is how they see it. And just remember, these are not my thoughts. I'm just being the spokesperson. If you're on TikTok, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Reddit, anywhere, right? Even in person, a lot of men see women as emotionally fragile, volatile, intense, and their reactions and feelings can be unpredictable. So a man's role as a partner, a husband, a boyfriend, whatever, is to hold up the emotional structure by staying calm, absorbing the feelings, and avoiding escalation. So happy wife, happy life. To the average man, arguing with a woman is an emotional lose-lose situation, because here's what he thinks. If he's right, he doesn't expect his point will get across anyway. It will be ignored or drowned out. She may even cry, and then the conversation is about the feelings and the tears and not actually about what's happened. And if he's wrong, he's apologizing anyway. So what's the point? Why engage? For many men, for them, the safest option is just to take the L, tolerate it, and move on. And that decision creates a behavior pattern, right? Men don't express how they feel because they don't feel safe to articulate their feelings and thoughts in the moment. So then they have to isolate, deal with it internally and deal with it themselves. And this is their form of emotional work. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because that's just my perspective on it. And don't comment, oh, but there's angry men clap back too, blah, blah. I'm just talking about how the average man feels from my perspective. I've heard this in person. I've seen it on TikTok. I've seen it on Reddit. I've seen it on, X, etc. Now, here is the women's experience from my perspective as well. Now, women also feel like they have to deal with a man's emotions like children. Guys, I want you to imagine this. Imagine trying to have a productive and honest conversation with a child who gives you nothing back. So no emotional response. They don't give you any clarity. They don't tell you their thoughts. They're just silent. You were then forced to pull their feelings out of them. You're forced to drive the conversation. You're forced to guess their emotional state. And then somehow you have to try and find a resolution, right? That's how pretty much the average woman feels like when they have to deal with men. And that is frankly exhausting, because women often see a man's silence as emotional absence, not emotional work. So they interpret that isolation that men do as avoidance, because it kind of is. They feel like they're carrying both sides of the dialogue. They're naming their emotions, and yet they're also trying to uncover what we're feeling. And then when men actually do open up, it's often not in a structured and honest way. It's generally a heavy emotional dump delivered suddenly without context. For example, right? A guy can go from not even communicating how his day goes to telling their partner about the trauma that his parents gave him when he was growing up. Imagine that, right? It can feel overwhelming, destabilizing, because it only arrives when someone has reached their breaking point. and it's just unfamiliar, right? So essentially we have two people doing opposite strategies, both convinced that they are carrying the heavier load and both feeling unappreciated and unseen. Men think, I'm protecting this relationship, I'm protecting us by restraining myself so this doesn't blow up. And women think, I'm protecting this relationship, I'm protecting us by expressing how I feel so we can reach a resolution and repair. And the problem is both strategies collapse when paired together because they just don't match. Because suppression, which men do, breeds resentment, and then overexpression, which women have to do, breeds exhaustion, and then therefore resentment as well. So neither party feels held, and both start believing that they are the only adult in the room. It's so funny how both sides think that they're dealing with children, right? So who is right? Well, it's obvious, man. Men. Women fix up. I'm just joking. That was actually a joke. Please don't clip it. The real question is not that. It's why do people feel completely alone in their effort? And I think the answer to that is socialization. Women are taught emotional articulation from childhood, obviously not in a class and not in a structured form, but by just being around other women, whilst men generally are taught emotional containment, and even the philosophy men like stoicism, emotional containment, right? So when conflict hits, one party is overflowing and the other party is very much restraining and maybe imploding now and then. One party thinks it's their responsibility to name everything, and the other thinks it's their responsibility to control everything. So both are performing labor, but they're performing different types of labor that don't recognize each other. And I guess the real challenge isn't about who does more. It's about whether either person knows how to share that work rather than to, I guess, dominate the emotional space, either through silence or through intensity. Because if a relationship is going to work at a deeper level, there has to be a shift where, number one, men learn to express their emotions in a healthy way without exploding and sharing, like, truly. And women learn to express their emotions without having to feel overwhelmed in doing so. And then both partners just try and have openness and understand each other without trying to emotionally overpower each other in their own way. That is the work, not trying to win an argument over who suffers more, but learning how to, carry the emotional load together and not against each other. But anyway, it's just my opinion. I may be wrong. Let me know how I did. And yeah, don't hate me for it. Conversation about emotional labor. So part one was about why men and women don't see eye to eye in terms of emotional labor. Now part two is about the actions. It's about responsibility and consequences. What should we both do, men and women? Because emotional labor properly, right? It's not going to be this like peaceful thing where we all get along. There's no arguments. There's no conflict. No, there's always going to be some form of disagreements, some form of conflict. That's for everyone, right? So we're going to start with men first because I'm a man. I know men better. For men, the responsibility starts with expression. Communicate regardless of the cost. You have to raise issues early. You have to bring discomfort to the open. You have to say what bothers you, even if you know it might not go well. Even if you know it risks friction, rejection, loss, conflict, arguments. It doesn't matter. I didn't like it when you did this. This is how I feel about this. And here is the part that I think men need to hear clearly. If you start doing this, there are a lot of people who won't take it well. You will lose women. You will lose relationships. Some people will not like it. Good. Not because you're wrong, but because in general, people don't like being held accountable. This is not women specific. It's not gender specific at all. It is human. Very few people are actually comfortable with open, direct, honest confrontation. But you still have to do it. Because the goal is not to keep everyone. The goal is to find a person who sees that conflict as teamwork, not an attack. You are just simply trying to improve the relationship by communicating. Right? We all know this. When you raise your standards, less people have the ability to meet them. I know people tell me, what's the point? If I'm right, I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If that's what you think, then you're with the wrong person. The right person, the one who you can actually be open with, does not take accountability as an offense, right? They do see it as two people moving towards the same outcome. These women are out there. The men are out there too. Growth, stability, trust, love. That is what you're aiming for. It's not about who is winning, who is right, who is wrong. How can we progress the relationship? That is the goal. You need to communicate. Now, on to women. I'm going to say this. This is just my perspective as a man, as an individual, actually, because I can't speak for women. From my perspective, for women, the responsibility is about standards and restraint. To put it bluntly, you don't need to train someone. You don't need to extract emotions. You don't need to drag participation out of a person who keeps opting out. Communication, emotional expression, emotional labor is an offer. If someone repeatedly turns down that offer, if they avoid, if they deflect, if they shut down, if they don't want to meet you halfway, then you don't have any responsibility to keep pushing. You leave. That responsibility you have is to yourself, to maintain your standards. People say they want an emotionally intelligent man. They want someone who's going to participate in emotional labor. They want someone who's emotionally expressive, right? Then they get someone who isn't, and they stay. Sorry, that's on you. Staying turns into unpaid labor and then resentment. So if you stay, you're implicitly agreeing to that. And then again, this is for everyone. Here is the part no one likes to hear. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you tolerate. If you tolerate shit, you'll get a shit relationship. Healthy relationships are filtered by your standards and boundaries. Accountability filters people. Standards filter people. Honesty filters people. And then what's left at the bottom? Healthy relationships. And yes, you will end up with fewer relationships. You will have fewer options. You will have to wade through shit, unfortunately. But the one that remains will be real. Emotional labor only works when both people are committed to choosing it. This was never about men versus women. It was about who is willing to do the work and accept the cost. If both people engage, conflicts, disagreements, hard times, that emotional labor that both sides are doing can build a very healthy relationship because both of you are actively coming together, right? If one refuses, then it doesn't work. But anyway, it's just my opinion.
Breakup, and this was the first relationship where I went to couples therapy, actually, because I really wanted this one to work out, and it's a shame it didn't. But the therapist made an interesting observation where he heard her and I's perspective on things, and he noted, he was like, you know what's so interesting is you guys' dynamic is flipped, because she's the more masculine, more logical, straightforward thinker, and you're more feminine, you're more emotional, you're more talking about presence and emotional abstractions. And I thought that that was curious because my experience of relationships is generally the one that women have, even though I'm the man. And it's kind of funny too, because like I'm a muscular dude, right? I work out, I have very masculine traits physically, but yeah, the texture of my mind, it does lean more towards emotional understandings, right? But not solely emotional is the big thing, right? I still move towards solutions, but I also understand the importance of seeing people, understanding people, holding people, and having them be safe emotionally in a way that a lot of men haven't really grasped yet. And so this breakup that I'm dealing with hurts particularly hard because I'm seeing that there was a difference in mindsets. And if this resonates with any women, I really want you to speak to this and let me know if I'm on track here. But it seems to me like somebody who has a collaborative mindset, who's thinking of us, who's thinking of the team, they are fundamentally incompatible with somebody who is oriented towards dominance or superiority, right? Because while you're looking at the relationship as a whole, while you're trying to create something that works for both of you, they are solely focused on their own position. They're trying to win, or they're at least trying to not lose. And so if there are situations where they've done something wrong, rather than embracing it, rather than seeing your hurt and meeting it, they're looking at themselves and they're saying, oh, I can't be in that inferior position of somebody who's hurt you. I can't be the bad guy here. So I'm going to twist the story. I'm going to twist the narrative so that I look good and so that, you know, I'm safe. But you've got to carry that hurt on your own. You got to deal with that on your own, because if I step into this, it compromises my superiority. It compromises how good I look. And so I can't meet you there. Now, what's funny about that is this is that emotional labor that men don't see often. And it's so ironic that I'm speaking to this, but it's just because generally, like, I'm the one doing the emotional labor, is they don't see how their safety and their sense of comfort has come at the expense of yourself. Because not only are you carrying the load of their okayness, their wellness, and making sure they're good, but you also are looking out for your own, and you're looking out for your own by yourself while carrying theirs simultaneously. And so this relationship taught me that loneliness within intimacy cuts so much deeper than loneliness when you're by yourself. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I definitely made my mistakes in this relationship, 100%, no doubt about it. And I'm taking those lessons with me, and I'm fully taken accountability to learn and do better. But I will say, I don't think, even if I had those lessons, I don't think this one was going to work out. I think that we were a bad fit because I was oriented towards like the team. I was oriented towards truth and wholeness. That was what I was really focused on. And she was really focused on making sure she was okay. And I'm understanding of that. I totally get that. She was focused on making sure she wasn't inferior. But those two mindsets are water and oil. They don't mix. They don't mix at all. It's so funny because alpha males, they think that the key to getting a woman who wants to work with you is to be dominant and to be, you know, the big strong man who's got it all under control. And it's like, you're not going to get a woman who wants to work with you. You're going to get a woman who's okay with being a subordinate, who's okay with being inferior. And you think you want that. I promise you don't, bro. I promise you don't. I've dated yes women before. It's so unbearable. They are so insufferable. And you might not be willing to admit it consciously, but unconsciously, you will make sure that relationship doesn't work out, even if you get what you want. That's a side note. Be that as it may, yeah, relationships are tough. And it's so ironic too, because I understand that women who are in my position, who have a collaborative spirit, they have a vision of a relationship where they and their partner are on the same page, they see one another, there's resonance and there's understanding. You might be thinking you can have that with a man who's moving towards dominance and who's trying to be alpha, right? And maybe that works like in sexual play, right? We're all adults here, right? We know that that's hot in that context, but the greater, I'm talking about like the greater philosophy, like how you really approach life. If that is their mentality, you guys are water and oil. It's not going to work out. It's just not. The only way it's going to work is if both people are both looking at the same thing, they have the same intention, and you both are unified in that front. And it's like, okay, we're going to move forward together in truth. And I'm going to hold myself, but I'm also going to hold you. And you can hold yourself and you can hold me simultaneously. But this will not work out if we're fighting for dominance. And one person is trying to make sure they're never inferior. And the other person is trying to make sure, you know, you're never inferior. But also now they're compromising their own stability to make sure that you're never inferior and making sure your feelings are fine. And they don't even see that a lot of the times. They don't even see that kind of work. It's underappreciated. It's so draining and it's so exhausting. I'd love to have a conversation on this. Let's talk about it.
Hey guys, welcome to Little Blackbird 91. Listen, I wanted to give you guys a full download of the topic, emotional labor. I think it's quite interesting, this topic, because it's evident that both sides believe that there is some form of emotional labor that's done that is not being seen. And of course, that's the irony, because emotional labor is not seen, it's felt. And as I was wading through the topics of emotional labor and looking at all the videos, predominantly women obviously talking about emotional labor, I asked myself the critical question, which is, if the men are complaining about women, and the women are complaining about the men, what is the issue really? What's the solution? And I think one of the brothers kind of said it very clearly, is that both sides do believe that they're contributing towards a relationship, just in different ways, right? And those contributions are not necessarily being fairly weighted, right, on either side. The men feel that the women are not understanding that when we quote unquote have to tiptoe around your emotions, when we have to hold the structure of the relationship, when we have to play the leader, when we have to know things, when we have to be the person that has to be strong, the one that can't cry, the one that can't and again, this is not necessarily all the truth, can't rest, right? We feel like, hey, we're doing a lot of emotional labor here. We might not call it emotional labor, we'll call it something else. And the ladies feel like when they're doing the behind the scenes administration, thinking about what they're going to eat tonight and et cetera, all those kind of things, right? They feel like they're doing the emotional labor. Either way, I think both people are doing emotional labor. I think whenever we talk about the subject and make it one-sided, I think I'm always going to do a disservice to people. Okay, all right. And I think that's a massive issue, is that on both sides, they feel entitled. I don't say feel entitled. They feel like they're getting a raw deal, right? And I think what's important from what I've noticed from, and again, maybe I'm being a little bit facetious, and maybe I'm limiting it and minimalizing the true nature of this topic, which is, I do feel like, well, when we talk about emotional labor in this instance, right? I feel like what we're really talking about is, and again, I'm probably again minimalizing. I feel like we're talking about attachment styles all over again. I see that whenever the women are talking about emotional labor, I often feel like they're talking from a very anxious position. They're over functioning. They're doing way too much. And I often feel like the men on the other side who ain't doing enough, apparently, they're oftentimes very avoidant, right? So we're back at this anxious versus avoidant cycle. And I think this is really important because it's going to be very difficult until people start focusing on themselves. I really feel like people need to start focusing on what they need to do in the relationship. So for the men, first and foremost, I feel like, and I was speaking to a friend about this earlier on, there is a case for us being more present, being more attuned and aware, being more considerate, and being more proactive in the areas in the relationship where there are gaps. And I feel like with that being said, right, I do feel like that there's some room for improvement from us, right? In terms of being able to really be able to kind of play a more advanced role, be a more advanced role, and I think this is a real conversation between yourself and your partner. I say this because what needs to happen is an expectation of what's a conversation around expectations in the season that we're in, right? So let's say, for instance, you're in this season, you may need a bit more help this season, more physical help. All right, let me know. You need more physical help. Here's how it looks like. I need you to pick up the kids. I need to do this. I need to do that. Yeah, because that helps me understand. Because especially if you're dealing with an avoidant man, he don't want to get things wrong. See, I think a lot of times when the internet will give you a one-sided affair. And it's interesting because a lot of men are afraid to really tell you the truth about how they feel. A lot of men are afraid. A lot of men are afraid. They're afraid to get it wrong because they're afraid of your emotions. They shouldn't be, but they're afraid of your emotions. They're afraid of the disapproval. And I always say this: women don't know when a man really cares about you. And of course, there's some trash men out there who don't care about you. I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, so if you've got a trash man, you need to do what you need to do what you do with trash normally and throw it out, right? But a lot of men are afraid, and I'll tell you what they're afraid of. They're afraid of reactions. Let me tell you some of the reactions. I've said this before on a video. Your facial expression. Your facial expression is a massive thing for men. Like you will say, like, let's say, for instance, I'll give you an example. I think it's a really good example, right? You normally typically do the shopping, right? He decides, okay, you know what, babe, what do we need today? Right? Your face is immediately, he's already feeling a disapproving look. He feels scolded and he feels like a kid. So now there's contention. This is why I said that men are actually they do emotional, I don't want to call it emotional labor, but they do pick up emotional cues, and they need to give themselves a bit more credit and actually start showing up and realizing you reading her facial expression, okay, is a part of reading a part of you reading the clues, right? And so we have to start paying attention to those things, right? That we are affected by that and communicate that, right? Because what we're really speaking about is emotional safety. Okay, these are fluff words that maybe men might not like, but they're words that are important, right? She doesn't feel safe and he doesn't feel safe, right? So when she's wanting him to be more considerate, and he's thinking, I'm trying to be considerate, or I'm trying to join in now, but I've never really done this stuff. So this is new, me learning this stuff. And so sometimes the difficulty of it is, that for us as men specifically, we want to show up, right? And and someone's gonna say, you know, should we coddle men? I'm gonna tell you that this is not coddling men. Men are very, I like to call it, we like equations. This is something I tell my clients all the time. Men like equations. What does that mean? We like it to be very, very clear, right? We like things to be clear. Even at our workplaces, we like to know that X, Y equals Z. That's what makes it easy for us. So what ends up happening, we begin to develop a system for it to be automated, so it makes it easy on us. Because what we don't like is feeling stressed and tired. So we try to find a way that's more proficient for us to work with. So the example here given, milk being bought, right? For him in his mind, he's thinking to himself, buy the milk whenever I need to buy the milk, man. You know what I'm saying, Chew? But let's say he ends up buying, you guys, I don't know if your guys have the colors as well, but let's say he ends up buying the blue milk instead of the green milk, right? He buys the green milk, and then the first instance is whatever reaction he's about to get is about to start the trajectory of the cycle that's going to cause an issue, right? So he buys the blue milk of the green milk. The woman comes home, or woman's at home, and she sees that he's bought the green milk. She doesn't have to say anything. The disappointment on her face, the frustration in her face, the annoyance in her face. I'm doing all this emotional labor. He can't even get a freaking milk right. And that immediate thing of where he's tried to help and immediately he's shut down. Yes, he got it wrong. And in that instance, right, if you've not done something very often, right, if you haven't done something very often, it may seem easy to you, but it might not be as easy to another person. It's something I've learned. You know what I mean? Like I learned that if you knew how to do it, you'd have done it. And most people don't know how to do it. And I'll tell you why they don't know how to do it. Because when I speak to the men and I speak about, hey, like have balance when you're talking about things, they don't know how to have balance, which means you're not balanced. And if I say to you, bro, you can't say it like that because it's not going to be received well. Why can't I say that? I'm like, bro, that's not balanced. You have to be able to understand that you're trying to win by having understanding, not by winning the battle, right? Balance. And then I ask both men and women, like, how do you, if someone gets something wrong or something you don't like, how do you approach that conversation? Or I just tell them, I don't have to coddle feelings. Whenever we start saying I don't have to coddle someone's feelings, right, it usually is an indication that that person's going to say it in a way that's not going to get a good response. Right? It's on both sides. It's on both sides, right? And so this particular topic always intrigues me because I feel like on both sides there is parts to play. I think for ladies, stepping back a little bit and not just octopusing in the life of the man is important, right? Like there was an example that the lady gave. She gave an example like, okay, let's say someone's birthday or whatever, an aunt's birthday, and then she will be like, send a card to the aunt or whatever. Why are you sending a card to the aunt? If you don't have a relationship with the aunt, why are you sending a card on his behalf? Stuff like it. I say this to say, sometimes we step into positions to do stuff we don't need to do. Right? We don't need to do it. You actually don't need to do it. You know what I'm saying to you? You don't actually have to do it. So a lot of times these things happen. And then on the men's side too, right? On the men's side, right? I do believe that there is an avenue that we need to also be in a place where we need to start being proactive, right? Proactive. In a space where we need to be able to, in a space where you need to be able to start paying attention to the gaps. Let's say, for instance, she's had a hard day at work, and you can tell that actually, bruh, she's been working all day. You know what? You can cook today. It hasn't been a hard day. You feel like you got strength. You can cook today. You know what I'm saying to you? Or you see that, bro, like you've just gone for the fridge. The fridge is looking a little bit empty. You know what? Let me go and get a couple things for the fridge, get a couple things for the kitchen. Here's the reality of the situation is the reason why you're not gonna, and I'll say this again. The reason why the reason why a lot of people again are going to get things wrong is because they don't know actually what they're doing. Do you get what I'm saying to you? They actually don't know what they're doing. Like, for instance, okay, the man that gets the shopping list wrong, it's because he doesn't know what you actually normally get. He actually, look, a lot of people think that people know something and they actually don't. Both men and women do this. They actually think the other person knows something. They don't. You're assuming they know. Even if they've watched you several times, okay, doesn't mean they know. Do you get what I'm saying to you? You know what I mean? So what I start realizing is that if you did know it, you would have done it already. Like, okay, for instance, obviously driving, right? And you know, as I was doing my driving, learning driving, I started realizing when I get to roundabouts, isn't it? I wasn't indicating on the roundabout. And I'm realizing the reason why I don't indicate is because I didn't know you had to, I don't know what to actually do. I'm guessing. So you know what I mean? So instead of, now I'm in a situation, okay? Now I'm in a situation where I'm like, I'm guessing and I'm going to get it wrong. And my fear is a response I'm going to get from another person. The other person who's going to be on the other side, when I get it wrong, are they going to not necessarily mock me or even necessarily laugh at me, but are they going to shame me? And are they going to, I don't want to say embarrass me. You know what I'm saying to them? Are they going to shame me? And that's a question we have to always look at. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So I always say this, that the first question I need to be really asking anybody is, do you know how to do that? No, do you know how to do that? Do you know what I mean? Like, generally, like, do you know how to do that? So again, the assumptions is what actually normally hurt the relationship. You know what I'm saying to you? Okay. The assumption is what sometimes hurt the relationship is that, do you actually know how to do that very thing? Like, and when I say do that, do you know how to do it? Do you know how to create a system as well that will enable you to be able to do this with ease? Right. Like, and this is a lot of times what happens in relationships, because people are trying to, how do I say this? People are oftentimes feeling like they're not being heard or not being seen, or the other person's ignoring them, or the other person's intentionally trying to not do this thing. So now you're getting frustrated even more because you're thinking to yourself, nah, this is not even impact. This is intentional. You're trying to intentionally not do something. And there are people like that. That's what we call weaponized incompetence. But there are a lot of people too who they just don't know. You know what I mean? You know. And this is the thing, Ari. This is the killer thing about it, right? Does he know how to do it? Do they know how to do it? Now, someone might say, should they figure it out? You know what I mean? But I'm saying, do they know how to actually do this? Right? Like, for instance, okay, let me give an example, right? Something that I've encountered last few relationships is that I encounter women that spend a lot more money than they should be than they actually save. I'm like, wait, why do these women spend so much money and they're not save their money? And I had to ask myself the question: do they know how to save? Did it? And it sounds so simple. Okay, it sounds so simple, but the key thing is, do you know actually how to save? Now, we all know the term save. It's a bit like, okay, what is time? We all know what time is, but when I ask you to explain what time is, then it becomes difficult. Like, how do I explain what time is? Do you know what I'm saying to you? Sometimes we have an understanding of something, and it's because we've been experienced to it. We've been hip to it. We've been exposed to it. We're quite hip to it. We understand it. We've been around it for so long. It's normal that we believe that everyone has the same normal experience that we're having. So if you're saying to me, wash the dishes, and I'm looking at you going, actually, wait, do you actually know how to? I don't want to be rude. I just want to be honest with you. Do you know how to wash the dishes? If you do, then fantastic. I'll let you do it your way. I'll let you do it your way. You do your way, and I respect the way you do it, man. Do you know what I mean? I just appreciate the fact you're doing it. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Again, there are some men who are weaponized incompetence. I'm not going to deny that. You know what I'm saying to you? In this aspect. You know, someone said there are some things you should take time out and do for yourself and learn for yourself in there. And there are other things that you should learn in a relationship. Yeah, but it's too late when you're in a relationship, right? Like if you're already in a relationship, it's too late. Like for instance, if you don't know how to do laundry, you should learn this before then, bro. But if you haven't learned it, are you now going to shame your partner for needing to learn how to do laundry? You know what I'm saying to you? Are you now going to get at your partner? Do you know what I'm saying to you? So those things maybe may need to be also embedded. You know what I'm saying? And this is why it's important also to know people's backgrounds, because if you found out that maybe that person wasn't necessarily had the greatest upbringing in terms of having parents that were actually hands-on, you probably realize, oh damn, they never actually got any of those instructions. They never saw those things. It can be tight that way. You know what I'm saying to you? You know? Shout out to Nisha, the good doctor, as well. Oh, by the way, guys, if you want to join the panel, let me know. There's a link. You can join the conversation. We'd love to hear some women's perspective and the men's perspective as well on this conversation, to have a real good conversation. Says, I have a theory. Oh, wait, why isn't the whole thing not showing? Hold on. Why does it? Oh, okay, it's showing. Okay, cool, my bad. I have a theory. The MAOA gene, largely responsible for emotional regulation, is on the X gene because men have the 1X gene. They have less of a buffer than women to avoid destruction. Okay, I've never heard that before. But she goes on to say, to avoid destruction, men avoid and deactivate. Women have a larger capacity for problem solving, arguments. Okay, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Okay. I hear what you're saying now. Okay, so in regards to that, so it's such an interesting concept, because I think in regards to that, you know, and thank you very much for the super chats as well. Thank you so much. Let me put a little clip. You know, I have to honor people when they send a super chat in. So let me just play my little clip, because I appreciate you for blessing us with you know, the super chats as well. Thank you very, very much. Let me play my little clip.
Who are you? My name is a pimp named Slickback.
That's right. So yes, I can see what you're saying. So in that I can see that. So to avoid destruction, men avoid and deactivate. Women have a large capacity for problem solving in terms of arguments, because again, the arguments can be seen as a way of connection. This is why I said I think a lot of people, especially people, are very anxious versus avoidant. So for a lot of men, I think a lot of men are more avoidant, and a lot of women are more anxious. So the argument actually for the anxious person is about the abandonment, whereas the avoidant the avoidant is seeking to avoid the rejection. So in that space, the anxious person wants to close the gap. So having an argument can be very scary, but it also means that we can close the gap, right? We can close the gap. But the avoidance, like, if you have an argument, this is going to lead to my rejection. Let me pull away. I don't need to be next to it. So now we've got somebody closing and someone pulling away. And so now we've got conflict avoidance and the person who's running into the conflict. And actually, both parties are not recognizing the trauma from each individual person. The anxious person is trying to avoid abandonment. So they're going to close that gap again, right? The argument's going to help them close that gap. Okay, we had an argument, but let me close the gap. I don't mind arguing. But the avoidance, like, no, I don't want to argue, because in the argument, I don't think I'm going to be heard. I don't think I'm going to be seen. So I'm trying to avoid the rejection. So it's easier not to come in that space. But good point. I mean, this is a good point in that respect as well. You're right. Who wants to teach another person life skills? I don't think anybody really wants to teach anybody life skills, but the reality is that if you date somebody, you have to be aware of what they lack in. Like, for instance, should I teach you financial literacy? Shouldn't you be literate in finances already? Money is not necessarily a man thing. It's a man and woman thing. Should I have to teach you how to financially budget? It's a life skill. You should be able to know how to budget. You shouldn't overspend your monthly. But I may need to do that because that may be a weakness of yours. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Now, I listen, I grew up in a household where I'm first born. I had the privilege, even though I think it was a bit annoying, okay? I had the privilege, but I was a little bit annoying. The privilege of where I had to look after my siblings. So for me, and this is also something I'm aware of, I've got a head start when it comes to children. This is not me being rude. I can change nappies. I can distill bottles. I can do the how do you call it? sterilizing. I put babies to bed. I know when they're crying that I have to, you know what you have to do. Do you know what I'm saying to you? I've watched the little babies go from crawling to walking. I've babysat them to a point where they've gone from crawling to walking to talking. Do you know what I'm saying to you? I've been the first word of my younger siblings, so I've got a head start. Do you know what I'm saying to you? Now, if I then take that mindset and throw that onto my woman, be like, I expect you to be at the same level I'm at straight away. If you've never had that before. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So now someone can now they can also, it can be emotionally unsafe if I'm like, wait, you don't know how to distill a bottle. Do you see that I'm saying to you? Now I'm going to be saying to you that, oh, that's emotional labor. Why don't you know how to do that? Because I've got the privilege of having that knowledge. Do you get what I'm saying to you? I've got a privilege of that knowledge, of knowing that, that information. And so again, I may also feel like, like you don't understand when the baby's crying that you need to pick up. Oh, you don't know how to hold the baby. You know, you have to hold it this way, and there's a way that you put the head on. Like, do you know what I'm saying? You don't know those things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you're not so comfortable with having to deal with the baby being emotional. These are things I've done. I did that for the early formative years of my life. I'm very comfortable in that space. I didn't like it because I lost a lot of summer holidays. You know what I'm saying to you? So, like, you know what I mean? Like, those skills may be something that I find more easier to do. Do you know what I mean? So I don't find it a struggle to do those things where someone else might find that a struggle to do. So I'm okay with saying that, hey, look, like, I'm not going to make it emotionally unsafe for you. You don't know what that is like. You know what I'm saying to you? So I don't expect the same level of effort or same understanding of that situation. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Right. In that particular area. The point I'm making is not necessarily about being a parent. The point I'm making is having knowledge and someone else doesn't have that knowledge. So the assumption is that person should have that knowledge, but you don't know if they do have that knowledge. Many of us grew up in households where we had that education looking after our siblings. So if I was to talk with those people who looked after their siblings, we'll be able to talk and say like, yeah, it's odd that people don't understand that or whatever. But it's not the case. Some people don't have that knowledge. In that space, right? It's just about the knowledge gap between people. But again, like I said, this is tough because some people, like I said, grew up in households where they weren't educated always in that particular space. You know how to wash your shirts? And do you know how to wash your shirts by hand? How many of you know how to wash your shirts by hand? How many of you know how to wash things by hand? Like, again, you know what I mean? Some of us were taught that, some of us were not. Again, there's wash machines now, so fantastic. But again, I'm recognizing now not to assume that someone knows something, because if you did, I'm assuming that you should do it. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Like, I'm expecting you to do it. But the reality is a lot of people are not doing it because they don't know how. Okay? They don't know how. And because, again, we've been educated very differently, a lot of households are, let's call it patriarchal, but I don't even know. Let me not even call it patriarchal. A lot of households are very stereotypical, okay? Because what they end up doing is putting a lot more labor on the young girls than on the young boys, right? But that depends on culture. Because you go to Jamaica, the man them are cooking. Yeah, go to Jamaica, Caribbean, the man them are cooking and cleaning, blood. Okay, them man don't play. Yeah, if you meet a Jamaican man, you will be sad about your cooking skills, right? Whereas in other cultures, that's not necessarily the truth, right? Right. But again, when you're taught these things from young, it's picked up. So again, this is really important about, no, but it's true though. It is bad parenting. This is actually it. You're actually right, sis. This is about bad parenting. We do need to actually parent people. You're absolutely right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is about bad parenting. It's about us not educating those young kids from young and early so that they're well adjusted. When we pass the buck and say boys will be boys, and again, men have to take accountability for this as well because we've also been included. But when we say boys have been boys, when we don't, when we don't actually acclimatize young boys to their emotions, when we tell them boys don't cry, we don't give them space to emote, then we are also doing them dirty, because what ends up happening is they're not able to recognize emotional labor. You can't see emotional labor if you don't really rock with emotions. Do you get what I'm saying to you? You're asking me to see a frequency that I don't rock with. It's hard to see. So there's an educational piece, I think, for young men that I do believe that we need to start doing as well, to make sure that as they're in that education, you know, they're going to be better stewards and better leaders as well in that space. That's one aspect as well. Because this is important, you know, as in that space. Let's say, so someone said some life skills have to be taught or perfected in a relationship to do things more efficient. If you're better at doing something, why wouldn't you help your partner enhance the skills? Yeah, absolutely. And I'll talk from a male perspective as something that I've also I was saying this earlier on, but I didn't finish saying it earlier on. Men like rewards. Now, I know some ladies are going to tell us that, you know, they don't get rewarded. Well, then I think you need to start changing the way you're doing things. You might want to ask for a reward, okay? For men, they need to feel rewarded, okay? I'm not talking sex. I'm not talking money. When I say rewarded, and I've heard it said before by some, not all women, some, like, for instance, let's say I said, we'll give an example. He takes out the bin. He's supposed to take out the bin. That's the bare minimum, right? That immediately tells me everything I need to know. If you're one of those people, I want you to stop it today, because you're cutting off the circulation. You're literally putting your hands around the throat and you're throttling and you're closing the air gap. Okay, all right. Like, oh, he picked up the kids today. I always do it. He's doing the bare minimum. You're right. You're right. You're right. And what's going to happen is you're going to cut off the circulation. Men need encouragement. Now, there are some men that doesn't matter what encouragement you give them, they're not going to do the thing. Yes, get rid of those men. But for a lot of men, we are wanting your affirmations. When I say you, I'm talking about women. We're wanting the women that we're with. We want your affirmation. So when you then withhold it, the man also then becomes like, okay, wait. I've actually submitted myself to receive this. This is what encourages me and motivates me. And you're just going to cut it off. Okay, well, then, all right. I ain't going to give you, I'm not giving you any more power over me again. I'm cutting it off. I'm not doing enough. And this is where you start seeing everything start shutting down. Now, I think that's it's a bit petty. And I do think it's immature. And I do agree that, right? Again, they should communicate and they should have conversation. I'm here to provide a bit of that understanding, right? That aspect is a massive thing. It's a massive thing. It's a big thing for a lot of men. That aspect where it's like, I don't feel appreciated or I don't feel affirmed. And so now the very little that he was doing, he ain't even gonna do anymore. But the little that he is doing, if we can affirm it, he does more. Men are that simple. Like, it's like, you see, you deal with your little boy. Your little boy takes a toy and puts it in the box. And he's not cleaned up. He just put a toy in the box. Well done. Well done. Okay. Well done. Yeah. Well done. And that is bare minimum. That's bare minimum. That little kid taking the toy and putting it in the box, he didn't clean up. He just put one toy in the box. You said, well done. Right? Because you were affirming the good behavior. And that's the same thing with men. They need affirming. It's all that affirmation, appreciation. Oh, babe, thank you for taking that. I saw the effort. Thank you very much. You know what I'm saying to you? When we say things are bare minimum, what we also fail to understand is a roof doesn't cave in overnight. It caves in with one tile missing. It caves in one tile missing. Now, if you're going to say that women also need that appreciation, I will not deny you. Then we should also ask the men to also at the same time be able to appreciate. Okay? Yes, I'm ADHD, so I'm not going to lie. I like positive affirmations myself. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's something that we should all be doing. Okay? All right? They should all be doing it. You know what I mean? Someone said, I'm not rewarding him taking out trash. Most men take out trash because they feel it's their job. And you should actually appreciate that. That's why when we go to a job, you have what we call an appraisal. An appraisal is them appraising what you've done, right? And even in essence, when you do anything at work, if you manage to get a sale or whatever, your boss will even tell you before the appraisal, well done, good job on that last sale that you did, right? got some good reviews. You get appraisal. These things help boost the behavior that you're doing. It helps affirm and positively condition those words, right? And so this is important. You know, makeup says, can I get a well done when I pay rent? Do you want a well done, or do you want to appreciate you? Thank you, babe, for I know we go halves, but I appreciate you even supporting me in this and supporting my endeavors to try and make sure we got a roof over heads. He should appreciate you. That's the whole point. He should be appreciating you. If you want appreciation, you should be hearing appreciation. Right? That you should be able to appreciate him. He should be able to appreciate you. Right? So what you're saying, you're going halves. If I know you're going halves of me and I know I can't fully afford it, I'm gonna be telling you, listen, makeup, thank you. You know what I'm saying to you, babe? But you know what? I know I can't afford to do like massive holidays right now, whatever. But look, I want to take you out for dinner. I wanna do this for you. I want to buy you flowers. I want to appreciate you. You should be expecting that, and you should be asking for it because you need it. Because the argument what women start making is, well, do I get that same? Oh, when I'm doing the basics, do I get that? You should be asking for it. Why would you not be asking for it? You need it. You need it to stay afloat. That's why you've become bitter. And it's understandable. The lack of appreciation has made you bitter. It's made you angry. It's made you resentful. Guess what? You need it too. So you need to ask for it. And I'm telling the men need to ask for this as well. I don't care if it's trash. I don't care if it's you opening. I don't even care if it's the garage that you're cleaning up today. A thank you goes a very long way. Right? This is why strippers are great at their job. I'm going to tell you something. This is why strippers and side chicks are amazing at their job. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to help you. I'm not. Again, I want to let it be very clear. Nobody should be cheating. If you're cheating, you're a bastard. I'm not here to absolve you from your cheating. Cheating is a boundary issue, and you are hurting your partner doing that. So me, I'm not absolving you. Okay, I'm not absolving you from cheating. What I'm talking about is strippers and side chicks understand. They just don't know how to. They've got a principle. Okay, hear me out. Okay, strippers have got a principle. What's the principle? Number one, it is the appreciation. Yes, I love that. Another round. The gratitude. It's the affirmation. Okay, all right. It's the adulation and the admiration. Now, of course, and I'm not talking about I'm not talking about them shaking their ass. No. I'm not talking about them shaking their ass. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is what they do after. Strippers make the reason why I've never gone to strip club. It doesn't make sense to me. Okay. But I can understand the psychology of why some men go to strip club. And I'm not talking about watching ass. I am not talking about seeing an ass on a pole. I'm talking about when a stripper comes off the pole, okay, and she's maybe grinding on you, but talking to you at the same time. Okay, maybe the grind on you might be a little bit too far, but she's talking to you at the same time. Okay, right? The principle is what we're looking at. We're not looking at the behavior of it is she's trying to get more out of you. Yes, but there's a principle. What's the principle? Because how is it she's able to get his money? How is it that she's able to get his money, but you can't get his money? Right? I'm talking about the principle. We're not talking about, listen, he can't wife a stripper and he can't wife a side chick. It's just that simple. He can't. Okay. We're talking about principles. Right. And I tell the men these things as well. When I go on her side, I talk about this stuff as well. So trust me, I just have a predominantly women audience. So I'm talking to women. Okay. In that moment, the stripper does something. Again, it's a principle. The stripper, I'm going to put it in this way. She might be like, yes, daddy. Now, when I say this, listen, I'm trying to get you to understand something. The yes, daddy, okay, is part of the game. The yes, daddy says, I acknowledge you and I appreciate you. I give you your proper reverence and respect. Yes, daddy. Now, she's going to take his money. Okay, I hear it. Okay, she's going to take his money. I hear it. That's the end goal. But why does he want to give his end goal? Because he's emotional. Bring something to you. I'm going to bring something to you. The reason why that man is going to give his money is because the exchange is actually emotional. So even though men may not recognize by saying it's emotional while they're at the strip club, it's very emotional. I'm here to explain the psychology, so don't worry. The reason why he gives that cash to her is because she makes him feel like a king. Yeah, now it might be short term. It might be. But the reality is it's a principle. The principle is the admiration, the appreciation, the affirmation, right? Those things and the acknowledgement are very powerful tools that then drive the man to want to do. So if you cut him off if you cut off the admiration, the appreciation, you cut off the affirmation, all right, and you cut those things off, guess what you cut off? You now cut off the motivation. There is no motivation. There's no reason to do those things. Yeah. Most of our reward system lay within our expectations, standards, and boundaries that we have in our relationships of all kinds. Yet we struggle to say thanks and appreciate. I hear it. Show appreciations and basics. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So in this space, I'm talking about the principle and applying it. Okay. The principle and applying it. So a lot of men are actually more emotional than they want to actually admit. I try to get them to see it, but it's hard for them, but they're going to get it one day. They are exchanging emotions. So the side chick also understands this. The side chick does this too, right? Which is, of course, again, the principle, not necessarily the whole behavior, because again, the side chick doesn't have the man on an everyday basis. The side chick also plays a role of, yes, daddy. I like you. You're fun. You're cool to be around. They have words of appreciation. When the man does anything, she's appreciating it, right? And so this comes back into the situation, okay, right? This comes back into the situation where this, for a lot of men, when we're talking about the understanding why he's missing you a lot of times too, because he also doesn't realize he's emotionally being disconnected. And the lack of understanding of what they need in that moment is also what's cutting things off at the needs. Like if he understood that, hey, look, you haven't said, when I take out the trash, when I take you out, when I do these things, these are things that I appreciate. These are things we appreciate. You know, when I'm doing, if I'm painting the walls, right? It's just nice for you to be like, hey, babe, I love the fact you're painting the walls. Thank you so much. You know what I mean? These things help. You know, someone said he'll blow the rent money on a stripper, and his wife will be there to affirm him. I hear it. Some men are trash. I'm not gonna lie to you. Some men are. They're not. We're not including those men, right? Some men are trash like that. We're not gonna include them. But yeah, this is just something I've just picked up in that space. But I'd love to have some. Before I go any further, I'd love to hear some opinions. If you have an opinion, I'm gonna put the link in the chat again. Okay, so if you have an opinion, I'd love to hear your perspective. This would be a good time to get your perspective and hear you as well, because we always like to see what people are saying. And hold on, it'd be a good time to hear other people's thought processes on this. If you agree, disagree, I'd love to have a chat, because this is how we grow and this is how we learn, right? We listen to each other and we get the other side of the perspective, and we see how best we can grow and move forward. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let me just pin the message. Okay. Yeah. Nisha said, oh crap, sorry. Nisha said, I have ADHD and I need feedback. I just don't BS me or tell me something that just to make me feel good. Maybe a matter of semantics. Absolutely, yeah. Nobody wants a fake compliment. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Nobody wants a fake compliment. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, we all want authenticity when we're complimenting. So a true representation of that. Like, do you know what I'm saying to you? Like, hey, like, if I, like, for instance, Niche, if I see you and I'm like, oh my God, like, if I see that, okay, you're not able to do something. Let's say you're having a moment where you're not able to do something right now, right? You feel like, oh, like, I can't do this. Of course, I'm going to be like, wait, Niche. I'm like, hey, you've done this before. Like, you've done great work before. You've been able to speak or write previously. Like, you've done this before. Like, you're amazing at this. This is what you're called to do. Like, don't give up, don't give in, don't stop now. Like, this is where you keep. See, you know what I'm saying to you? I'm recognizing that you may not be in that space, so I need to encourage. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So this is a thing. And again, my perspective is to also appreciate even the very little things you do. You know what I'm saying to you? The very little things. It doesn't matter how many times you cook me a meal. I'm gonna be appreciative of it. It doesn't matter how many times you you know, if you change the bed sheets or whatever, and I've seen the bed sheets have changed. Babe, thank you for changing the bed sheets, man. I appreciate it. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to appreciate the little things that you do. See, the little things are actually the bigger things. The big things are easy to say something. You took me on holiday, so I'm saying fantastic. Like, that's amazing, but that's the big thing. The little things are the ones that are going to make the big things. That's how I look at things. I look at the things like, if I don't speak to the little things, right, I'm gonna feel fake when I talk to the big things anyway. But also because then I feel like I'm short circuiting you, and I'm doing myself a disservice, because every time I don't want to say something nice about things that you're doing well is immediately what I'm gonna set myself up for resentment. Like, every time, like, let's say for instance, I'm a person, I like to observe. Let's say you've changed your nails. I want to notice, I need to notice it, because I don't want to get to a place where I'm like, oh, I don't notice it anymore, because what's going to happen is I'm going to go cold. So I make sure, okay, wait, I just saw your nails will change, babe. That's nice. The color, okay, I see you. That's nice, babe. You know what I mean? Oh, I saw you done your hair, babe. That's nice. You know, I have to mention these things because I want to keep my fire burning. You know what I'm saying to you? I want to keep my fire burning. You feel me? But I also understand how difficult it can be when you're not getting what you actually need from the relationship as well. So I'm listening to that perspective too. You know what I mean? It's not always easy. It's not always straightforward. And it doesn't always work like that as well. I'm just giving a perspective, you know? I thought that would be another way to look at things as well. Yeah. Because it's not easy. Okay. Let me see. Anybody want to come up and give me some thoughts? I would love to hear some thoughts, man. That's why on TikTok, by the time if I was on TikTok like this for an hour, people will be in my neck. They'll be joining me. If I was on TikTok, they'll be requesting like 1 million requests. They'll be challenging me. You get me? Oh, Queen, I see you. You're not connected though. It says you're not connected. I can see you, Queen, but it doesn't say you're connected for some reason. It says device not connected. It's not connected yet. So anybody else want to join us well as Queen is getting her setup ready? I don't know, because I can't even add you because it's not even connected. But yeah, I would love to hear some perspective, ladies, gents. We'd love to hear some thoughts on this because I think this is a very good topic. So if you have a say or you have an opinion, something different, love to hear your perspective. It's not a debate. It's just us having a conversation, just talking. Let me know your thoughts. You know what I mean? And we'll definitely have a conversation. I think it's important to be able to dialogue and talk and chat. Queen, your thing is still saying device not connected. What's going on? Is your mic not connected? Are you connected through Safari? You might be if you're connecting through Safari, it might be an issue sometimes. Sometimes the iPhone does that. If you're connected through your iPhone, maybe connect through your laptop or connect through your iPad if you're doing that. Because sometimes the phone, I don't know what's going on with the phone. Sometimes the phone does that as well. It'd be moving mad to get me. There was something that she said. I want to play a little bit of the clip.
Ask him to do it, but that's also labor. Like, ugh.
I've been a feminist identified man for my entire adult life, but I didn't always have a handle on exactly what emotional labor is. So when my daughter was a baby, my ex-wife and I had a deal. We would alternate getting up with her in the middle of the night. We would share that labor. But I would frequently be in a daze, and I would turn to her and I would say, just tell me what to do. Even though, of course, I was doing the same thing every time. And it would annoy her, and I just didn't get it. I was just saying, like, point me in the right direction and tell me to go. Because I didn't understand that in making that demand, I was making my turn her turn too.
But that's the point. You don't know how to do it. So she figured it out, but now she figured it out, she should pass the information on. She actually should spend her time teaching you really teaching you quickly and saying, hey, babe, this is how you do the napkin. This is how you do this. This is how you, and then she can hand off. We do that in business all the time. When someone doesn't know how to do something, you teach them and you hand them off. That's what you do. You train them and you hand them off. Yes, I can see you, Queen. I'm going to bring you up in a second. So actually, you asking isn't a problem. You know what I'm saying to you? What needs to be done is effective training so that she can go to bed. You know what I'm saying to you? So she can go to bed. She has to train you so you can go to bed. Like, and then you can be the one. Because what you're really saying, what actually happened is you did not know how to do it. That's actually the biggest issue. You did not know how to do it, and you were afraid. What should have happened also is, if you are going to figure it out, you got to tell her, listen, I'm going to figure it out, but I'm going to do it my way. You can't tell me how to do it. You know what I'm saying to you? If I'm going to do it if I'm going to do it a way, you can't tell me how to do it. I've got to do it my way. Because if you're not going to make it safe for me to ask a question, then now you got to let me do it my way. Because that's why I said that a lot of times men are afraid because they're afraid of getting it wrong because you've put a standard on it. If you want to figure it out, let him figure it out then. But let him do it his way. Let you find it out. You're gonna figure it out. You ain't got a choice. She's gonna scream long enough that you're gonna have to figure it out, bro. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? So you know what I mean? So do your own way. That's why he's asking. The reason why he's asking is because I already, and this is my personal perspective, I think he's asking because he feels like she's got the upper hand in the knowledge in this area, and she might have had to learn it on the job as well. So I'm not saying that either. Okay, I heard what he said about asking several times. I did hear about that. Why is he asking several times? Why do you ask somebody something? When you ask them several times, you ask them because you actually don't know how to do it. That's the biggest issue. The reason why you ask people constantly over and over again is because you don't know how to do it. Because at that point, it's not emotional labor. That then you are trying to intentionally not do anything. That's not emotional labor at this point. At that point, that's completely something different. No, he can't learn by watching, because sometimes it's not enough to learn by watching. That's the whole point. See, this is what I'm trying to tell you. A lot of times people believe that just because you watch it, you know exactly what's going on. I've watched people drive several times. I did not know how to do it. I have to practice it. I have to get in the car. And sometimes I don't even want the person there. I want to be able to practice it and make mistakes without you telling me how to do it. You know what I mean? Like, so him asking this thing to be like, hey, babe, you know what? You don't know how to do this. You know what I mean? You don't have to do this. So let me teach you. You know what I'm saying to you? Because if someone asks me, I don't know how to change a nappy. Oh, I've shown you. You know what I mean? If I haven't shown you how to change a nappy, wait, hold on. I'm gonna be like, hey, hold on. You don't know how to do a nappy, so I'm gonna show you after this time. If you haven't got it, you got to tell me you haven't got it, so that whatever. Do you get what I'm saying to you? You feel what I'm saying to you? If you, because at that point, that's not, for me, that's not emotional labor. To keep pushing her to do it is weaponizing incompetence. That's not emotional labor. That's intentional weaponizing the incompetence. That's completely different from emotional labor. I mean, what emotional labor can be considered in that aspect, but that's now him weaponizing incompetence. That means you intentionally were trying to avoid it. Yes, that's exactly, that's teaching. Talking someone through it is teaching, which is what we all have to do. That's the point.
I did not understand why she was annoyed with me, because I didn't appreciate that it was labor and that I was making her do that extra labor. They should tell me to go. Doing the same thing every time. And it would annoy her, and I just didn't get it. I was just saying, like, point me in the right direction and tell me to go. Because
now, why does he keep asking, say, point me in the right direction? Because he doesn't get it. That's the point. You see, I'm trying to get people to understand something. He doesn't understand it. And I said this, you know what? When it clicked for me, I've said this before. I had a conversation with my younger sister. and she was telling me about a situation that she had with her boyfriend, and they were talking about doing something, right? Something simple. I think it was like cooking rice or whatever. Okay. And he went to go and do it, but it didn't turn out great. And then she was getting annoyed. And then she said, before I get annoyed, let me ask him, does he actually know how to do this? Or did he just try to bluff his way through the situation? When she asked him, he said, no, I've never done it before. And it just opened my head like, oh my God. And it made me think, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why people don't do things because they think they know, they don't actually know. You get what I'm saying to you? They don't actually know. But anyway, let me get someone else. Let me get Queen on. Continue the conversation. Okay, let me see. Hello, Queen. How you doing?
Hey, Kojo.
What's good?
Happy holidays. So the funny thing is, can you hear me? Okay. So you know how when we're watching Love is Blind and we ask ourselves, what are they really talking about? Sometimes it's the same way for relationships. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. Am I good? Or should I come back in?
Go for it. Go for it.
You can hear me? Okay. So what are people really unpacking when they're building and starting a relationship? What conversations are actually being had, right? Like, does it get to a conversation of having a conversation about trauma at some point, or the things you've experienced or you haven't experienced? So then that way your partner can know, okay, my partner is not really good at this type of communication because they didn't grow up in an environment where they were able to really express themselves. Or you can see it in another way of saying, well, my partner was more spoiled, so they don't know how to do X, Y, Z. So sometimes I'm always wondering, like, what are people actually talking about when they're getting into relationships? Because if you are a type of person that explodes off the simple things, are you healing? Are you trying to do the work on your own? And a lot of people don't make for great teachers. And that's just the true case. You know what I mean? Like, some people don't know how to teach. So some people don't hear themselves when they're actually talking to another person when it comes to trying to train someone to do something properly, right? Well, you're an asshole when you're trying to teach somebody something. So no wonder they can't, retain it, because you're not really effective. So some people don't make for great teachers. And some people are just that simple that they don't, they're not great student. Well, I'm not gonna say you're not a great student, but you just don't retain things as easily, right? So communication is probably one of the hardest factor in building a healthy relationship, right? Because sometimes people are not being honest with themselves too. You'll jump into a relationship before you consider therapy. Like, let's be for real. You know what I mean? Like, are you willing to heal yourself first to find what are your pros, what are your cons, what works and what doesn't work when it comes to all different types of relationships, ones with your family, your friends, the romantic ones you have. And another one is, sometimes I kind of find that it's yin and yang in a relationship. There's always one person doing the work and there's another person who isn't. And I'm just like, wow, that's actually really common. But yeah, I don't want to rant, but those are some of the things that I actually think about when it comes to like a healthy relationship. It's like, dang, are you really willing to sacrifice your own time and your own freedom to get into something with someone who may not be there on the same level as you, or you may not be on the same level as them because you're still doing the work?
No, that's good. That's good points, man. I think you've made some really key points there as well. And it got me thinking as well about how difficult sometimes it is to learn certain things, that not everybody is acclimatized to learning things quickly. For instance, I can dance. I don't do routines because it takes me hella long to learn it. And then I'm very critical of myself when I'm trying to learn these routines. So I only like certain routines because it seems to mesh well with me. But when it comes to dancing, I start feeling nervous about, okay, I've got only an hour to learn a dance routine that looks like it's 4 minutes long. I'm not even getting the first few steps, so I immediately quit. You know what I'm saying to you? Now imagine obviously taking that as an example into a relationship, someone trying to teach me something. I'm gonna need some patience. For instance, when I started driving, I don't like people that raise their voice. Don't be getting. Hey, I was never gonna crash. Don't be doing those scared things, because you're making me scared now. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, I need a safer environment. I need people that are gonna be calm, cool, and collected when they're trying to teach me. You know, and I need also encouragement when I'm making steps and I'm getting some things right. Do you know what I'm saying to you? I'm also needing some grace because I do make mistakes. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, my brain, sometimes you tell me something and like I've forgotten it 3 or 4 times. I'm not good at, I'm really bad at birthdays. Sometimes you tell me like 2 times and then I find like, oh, okay, now I've got it. So what I've learned to do is put into the diary or whatever. Now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna forget it, so I'm gonna put it into a diary, right? I've developed a system that will help me to do that. So I think that's the other aspect, is like, it's difficult sometimes because you do feel fear. And that's what I said about some people were feeling fear, because it's like we have to match up to a standard. And sometimes, depending on that, like when he said he's a male feminist, I started seeing the quivering in his lip. I said, I don't know what happened in his home, but I want to know what happened when it came to learning and him being safe enough to learn certain things. Because the way he was talking, okay, I'm making judgments, but you know, I know it's not always easy to learn something, and you do need a safe environment to learn it. You want to be able to be encouraged and appreciated, and even if it's the little things, because that encourages you to want to do more. So it's not easy on either side, and I do take into account the women's frustration when it comes to this topic, that, you know, sometimes it can feel like you are having to quote unquote mother in that aspect as well.
And another thing I wanted to bring up is, do certain type of men ask themselves why women feel like they are assertive or aggressive and things like that? Like, from a Black woman, because that's the only perspective I can give, is the only thing we know how to do is go. Like slowing down and pausing and being able to take it easy. That's really unfamiliar to a lot of us. You know what I mean? The only thing we know how to do is make sure the house is good, make sure you're good, you know, you're fed, and making sure you're keeping up with yourself. So when you're incorporating somebody else in your life, you're like, okay, I got to think about them. I got to get this. I got to get that. So it's always so many things on your mind. So then when you're with a man and you're like, wait, you don't think about half the stuff that I think about? You know what I mean? It's like, wait, I go above and beyond to make sure that I think about everything that's going on in your life plus mine. So then to be with a man that doesn't even, like the milk example you gave, I'm not going to hold you. You get the wrong milk, that's going to send me through the roof. Why would you get the wrong milk? We don't drink that damn milk. So getting the wrong milk can kind of sometimes ticks people off, because it's like, wait, I consider every aspect of yours. I make sure I write down the details and make sure that everything in your life is straight and copacetic, but you got the wrong milk. I'm sorry. Sometimes that can make somebody a little bit upset. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, what are we supposed to do with the wrong milk? And are you going to have a quick turnaround to go change it? You know what I mean? So sometimes it's like, well, do I got to go tell you to go change it? Or why didn't you ask what kind of milk was supposed to, you know what I mean, that we normally get? Or did they run out of the milk and you just got this as an alternative? And sometimes I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to be like, well, did you look? You know what I mean? So, but I really would like for Black men to consider us Black women and go, you know what? When I had a sister, we lived in a household where me as a boy, I didn't have to do the laundry. I didn't have to do this. I didn't have to cook dinner, but my sisters did. My sisters had to do the laundry. My sisters had to do this. So do you consider yourself a man that goes, you know what? When I have a wife, I'm going to make sure that her load is a little bit easier because I've seen my sisters do this. And because I've had a conversation with my sisters and they wish they didn't have to do so much, I'm going to make sure that my daughters don't have to do this. My wife doesn't have to do this, or she doesn't feel like this is her role. And I don't know. So when men are saying we're aggressive and we're this and that, we got to keep going. You know what I mean? Like, it's really difficult out here for us to really fall back on someone. So for when Black women are in a comfortable environment with a man where they can fall back on, it's lovely. It's nice to see. It's a good balance of communication and being vulnerable, but there's not a lot of space out here for that now.
Definitely hear that. Definitely hear that. Stacey Stace, welcome to the conversation. Good to have you on board.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love to hear your perspective.
Yeah. So when you were talking about business, I like that you brought that up because it made me think of strategic labor. So, how many times let's say you have to send your manager a weekly summary of all the tasks that you did on the job, right? And you did great task, great work. But then your manager responds and says, "This is awesome, but it's not what I asked you to focus on." Right? And so that makes me think of relationships. I think a lot of times we're burnt out with labor because we failed to understand exactly what our partner wants us to focus on. So we might be using all of our capacity to feel, for example, to maybe you went and did the grocery shopping for the week, but they actually enjoy doing the grocery shopping. So you think you're taking something off of their plate, but you're actually taking away something that they enjoy. When in reality, they've asked you to focus on other areas that they actually need from you, right? And so sometimes I think if we're honest with each other, like we take the easy route, right? We do the task that we're naturally good at. And we think that we're getting these cool points for something that comes to us intuitively. But really, what our partner is asking us is to be more patient with us, spend more quality time, be more intentional, plan dates, cook more, help with the kids. So I just wanted to bring that up because when you talked about business, I like the way you put those two together. So strategic labor. What is it that my partner needs? Not what I actually feel like doing. It's a big difference.
So that's some really good points. I think this is where communication is very important. And that's why I was saying that, again, there are men who, we don't going to include them, who are intentionally just want to hurt your soul, right? I think there's a lot of men too who are not trying to hurt your soul, but a lot of us men are very literal. So it's like, when I say literal in the sense of like, you can say, get the milk. And in my head, I'm saying, okay, get the milk for today. I'm not thinking about next week. I'm thinking about today. Right. So, I mean, again, of course, because obviously, this is something that I do. I've been doing it since I was a kid. It's not something I'm going to be. Do you know what I mean? Like I've been doing grocery. I've been shopping. I've looked after my siblings. I've had to do all that kind of stuff. I've had to play that role from a very young age. And I think if if you marry a firstborn who has had to do that, whether it's a woman or man, if they've had to look after siblings, those skills are embedded. They've had to do it for a very long time if they have that kind of role within the family. So it almost becomes natural for them to do that kind of thing. It almost, maybe I'm being a bit judgmental. I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if they're marrying second and third borns. But I'm just in a sense of when you're at work, you recognize that you have to learn on a job. So there's usually an induction phase. And there's usually also a phase where people don't expect much from you because you're learning. And so again, when that man then steps up into that position, he's in a learning curve. If he's just stepping up, now he's in a learning curve because he never had to do this before. Maybe it was something you were always doing. That's where he needs that grace where, like, you know how you just put it just a minute ago? You said, hey, it's really great that you did all these things. That's not what I'm asking you to do. That's not what's probably not going to get said. That first part is actually part of the ethos I talk about, which is CBEEC. Whenever we're addressing people difficult conversations, there should always be a compliment at the beginning, because that disarms people. It makes them know that you're on their side. It makes them know that, hey, I'm not chastising you or scolding you. I'm letting you know that, hey, you know what, you know, the blue milk, babe, I love the fact you bought the milk. Thank you very much. It's actually not the right milk. Can you get the red milk? Now, if you say it like that, again, there are going to be some men who are just going to be bastards anyway. I think most men are going to be like, wow, like, you know what? It's a funny moment. I got the wrong milk. I'm going to go out and get it again. Because the way you said it, you've given me grace in the moment when I failed. And most men respond most men show the most loyalty to women when women have showed them grace when they're at the bottom, not when they're at the top, not when I'm firing all blanks, not when I'm doing everything great, but when I get it wrong, do you cover me or do you strip me? And that's where for us men we feel it. Again, that's just a perspective. But you know, as you were sharing, I don't know if Queen wants to say something, then I'll get you back in, Stace.
I actually would like to say something on that. So in a relationship that I was in, when I came into it, I was like, you know what? I'm good at this, so I'm going to do XYZ. And I was like, well, I'm going to make his life easier. And as I was doing it, I was like, does he really appreciate what I'm doing for him? And I had to ask myself, am I being sensitive on what I think he should say to me, like praising me or appreciating the work that I'm doing? Or does he even need it? You know what I mean? And so I was like, you know what? I need to start reflecting on, instead of giving a person what I think they need, actually give them the space to say, hey, I need XYZ. And, but he was never really a type of person that would say much. And I was like, am I a burden or not a burden? Or is this even what he needs or what he doesn't need? Because most of the time he was just like, you could just sit on the couch and we could just watch TV together. But I was like, but I'm gonna put your clothes away. I'm gonna do all of this and XYZ. And it was like, he did not need that at all. And I was like, wow, like, let me chill. That's one of my personal problems. Girl, why you don't chill? But I was like, okay, learning to chill and just saying, you know what? He'll open up when he's ready or to tell me what he needs. And he really didn't need a lot. But I was like, okay, I have to stop thinking that because someone is missing this, that they need that. They're cool. They're probably cool without having it. But I'm glad that Stacey brought that up.
Thank you, Queen. And it, it's so true. Sometimes we put more value on task and our partner is not valuing those tasks or, as much as we are. And so it's just this continued, why doesn't he appreciate it? Or this continued excuse that we give ourselves, like, oh, I don't have to do that. I know he asked for that, but I don't have to do that because I'm doing this. Meanwhile, they haven't asked for this. They asked for that.
That's a good point. And I think for the men, we need to pay attention to that as well then, because we do that to you as well as women, right? We do that in the space of, and again, I'm sure women do appreciate it, but I'm saying in the sense of maybe in the space of, I mowed the lawn, I took out the trash, I paid the bills. And whilst those are amazing things, like you said, we're not actually asking maybe those direct questions in terms of what is it that you actually need, in order to be able to say, in order to be able to fill in so that you're not feeling that emotional deficit, right? Because maybe you have got some things covered. Maybe I can say, oh, I'm going to take, I'll help your calendar. And you're like, I don't need you to help my calendar. Like, I've got that, you know what I mean? But like you just said there, that's also an aspect as men, we need to probably tap in a bit more and be like, hey, babe, you know what? I'm good at financial budgets, but does she need a financial budget? You know what I mean? Like, I may want to take over that because I'm good at it, but does she need that? And maybe that's a question I need to ask her a bit more, as what you ladies are saying, which is really good. And ask her, like, where do you need me to fill in? You know what I'm saying, Chu? And if there's a skill gap, I need to also let you know, I'm not going to lie to you, there's a skill gap here. I have no clue how to do it. Give me some time to learn how to, and I need grace. Because if you start jumping on my back and telling me I'll just do it, I promise you, it won't just affect this moment. It will affect everything else. Because I'll take that, what you just said in that moment, and I'll put it across the board. That's how most of us men feel. But I think we do need to communicate that. What is it that you need in that space as well?
That's good. That's good. Question for you. What are your thoughts? I'm curious to know. When I think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If your partner's basic need, and that's going to look different for everyone, if your partner's basic priority need is not being met, do you think it's possible to still get quote unquote cool points for other things that you're doing in the relationship? Or is all of that wiped out because you're not handling the main priority thing that your partner is asking for.
That's a difficult one, you know.
Yeah.
That's such a very difficult one because I guess it really depends on the weight that they put on that particular thing that I'm doing, right? Or that thing that is important to them. I guess it depends on the weight. I think that wow, that's such a very difficult. You know what? I haven't really thought of it to death, and let me not jump too soon. I actually don't have an answer just yet. Let me not try and you know. I just realized I was about to answer a question. We just spoke about that. I don't have an answer just yet. Like it was a good question. I don't have an answer yet.
Yeah.
What made you? What are you thinking when you ask that question? What's your thoughts on that then?
Pretty much along the same lines as sometimes we complete all of these tasks for our partners and they haven't asked for these things, right? So in the back of someone's mind, it can be like, yeah, thanks for that, but you still haven't taken care of the main thing that I've been asking for, pleading with, right? So until that is met, until that is covered, I'd rather you put your effort into the primary thing. You know, so it makes me wonder if we become blinded and we're unable to appreciate all the other things because that one thing that we want is not met.
Can I
So
tap in on that?
yeah, you can. Yeah. Go on. This is getting good.
I would like to say that then there is a problem because I would like to consider it as functionality versus feature. So if the basic need is a functionality that is required and needed, you adding features wouldn't matter. For example, if Instagram took away the feature where you can upload photos, then what would be the purpose of Instagram, right? Because if the basic need is to add photos, but you can do everything else like leave a comment or add music, okay, but the primary goal was to add a photo. That's an example, right? So if the functions are not needed or not being met, then why would you give me features?
That's a good analogy.
I love that analogy. So I'm gonna. It's interesting because something just happened. Stacy asked me a question, and I thought I understood it, but when I really replayed it, I didn't understand what she said. I genuinely didn't. Like I heard it, and I was like, "That makes sense." That question, but it didn't make sense. But it made sense, right? And I started answering it, thinking I knew what she asked, and I realized I did not know what she asked. And just as I pulled myself back, I said, "That's what happens." It's like you told me something, and I promise you I heard it, but I don't think I fully understood it. Now, of course, we can not make it as simple as the milk, right? But it's not about milk, is it? When you tell me to go and get the milk, it's not about milk. What you're talking about, what we are all talking about, isn't necessarily about milk. It's about the fact that you've asked me to do something which is going to help take a load off your plate, right? And if I've not understood the priority and the importance of it, I'm not looking at it that way, right? For instance, like turning up late to a meeting. Let's say you turn up late to a meeting. The reason why a lot of times you might turn up, oh, they don't really care if I'm going to be late or not, right? You're not placing importance on it. And in the same fashion, you're not getting onto me because the milk is blue instead of being green. You're getting onto me because the importance you've placed on the action of me taking a load off your plate. So the priority, as you said, yes, you're right. The features and the aspect of functionality, I think a misunderstanding in our brain of the importance of that thing, which is why the emotional aspect is really difficult sometimes. I genuinely believe that we probably need to, as men, probably need to ask me that another question, which is how soon and how important is this thing? And I know it sounds mad because for women it might not make that sense for us. But for us as men, sometimes because we're trying to sort things out in terms of like priorities quickly for us so we can know which one to do, so we can put some things aside. The way our brain works, we're not saying we're better than women. We're not. I don't think so. We're just the way our brain works. I need to know, is this important? Is it important? Does it need to be done now? And then I can go, okay, cool. My brain is switched on. Hey, we need green milk instead of blue. Don't get the blue, get the green. And if there's no green, okay, cool. We can't get milk today. It's fine. The importance plays a massive role for a lot of us, because I think a lot of us are not as connected emotionally. So it doesn't make as much sense, if that makes sense. I'm trying to put my brain is so that, yeah. Yeah. That's the best I can put it for now. It'll probably come to me a little bit later.
Can I
Yeah.
say something?
No, go ahead, Queen.
I think how we show up in relationships is a part of our history and our experience. So when we show up in a relationship and we don't know how we explode on somebody, it's because of maybe what we have dealt with. So when you're a type of person who doesn't deal with those issues and kind of just let it live out, it doesn't go away. It still stays there. So how we respond to our partner may be negative because you never took care of what you needed to take care of, right? So then how you show up in that relationship, whether if it's teaching them or giving them grace or allowing them to be vulnerable, it's only because of what you experience. And sometimes if it's traumatizing, what you choose not to heal, right? So sometimes some people are so quick to say, well, I'm going to get in a relationship with someone who loves me and do XYZ. But it's like, wait, hold up. This can be true, but when are you going to heal, right? Is it fair to just jump into a relationship with someone without healing what is broken? Because what you experience and what you have dealt with will never go away. But when you learn how to unpack it, you show up differently. Light looks brighter when you choose to do that kind of work, because it's true. Like you how you show up is gonna play out that way, whether if you were someone who always been walked on or if you've always been someone who's been bullied or XYZ. Is it fair to your partner that you choose not to do the work on yourself? Because how you show up, it's very, very important. And will it last or lead for sustainability if you continue to keep going this way?
Yeah. Yeah, that healing. That healing is definitely is obviously crucial, right? A lot of people do refuse to heal. Um, but the thing about healing is it's an ongoing journey, right? So even when we think that we are completely healed from a situation, something can happen and boom, we're triggered and you're like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe I reacted that way." But there's still that piece of you that needs to continue to do the work. You know what I mean? So I think as long as there's the commitment to growth. You ever been with somebody who just refuses to grow? Nothing is ever their fault. They're always pointing fingers. They're always blaming. There's no such thing as accountability in their life. Like that's a red flag. You just exit. Like, right? Like you just take out the trash right there. Right? But if you have someone who who shows you even when they mess up, right? They show you, they come back and take responsibility. They're able to apologize. They're able to look within. That's a good sign. You know what I mean? Because I'll be honest, even a few hours ago, somebody said something to me and I had a response and I clutched my pearls. I said, oh my gosh. I just got triggered, and this is like childhood stuff. And trust me, I've done the therapy, I've done the healing. I'm very, um, I'm one of those people that just loves healing, right? But even we fall short sometimes because we just don't know. You catch us on the right day at the right time, and that person says that one thing to us that hits that deep part of our childhood and boom, we using all kind of words that we never used before, right? So yeah, healing is definitely a journey, and we all have those areas. So I think it's a matter of choosing the partner that's not gonna put you through so much emotionally, with their healing journey, where it becomes just like a huge burden and um a huge burden to the success of the relationship.
Yeah,
I agree.
definitely. I hear that. Go for it, Queen. Go for it. Hmm.
No, I was just over here like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. And I don't know if this ADHD. And again, I'm also being careful not to put all men into the bracket again. I got a bit of ADHD in that aspect because I came to America 2022 and put on a show. And I had to figure a whole bunch of things out, which I'd never really done before, right? And because I was left to my own devices, I had no one else really to turn to. I had to figure it out, right? Obviously, I had a few people that helped me as well. They scouted the places, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I spoke to the people and everything like that. I remember I had to get catering for Atlanta. And I don't even know how I even found a catering. Someone probably just recommended it to me. But it made me think because of the scope of the task was very difficult. And I was trying to figure out how to even do it. You know what I'm saying to you? And I guess obviously I'm saying that to say in the sense of skill gap, the know-how is so important. And I think the know-how in this instance actually is having the conversation rather than maybe even the act, right? The art of having conversations. Because as we're having a conversation now, I feel very safe. I feel safe because I trust that both ladies here are very intelligent. That even if I do say something that we don't agree with, you're going to correct me, but you're not trying to trash me or break me down. So there's a safety in that, knowing that we're having a very intelligent conversation and knowing that with that, the way we're addressing things is in a polite, calm, key manner, which means I can continue to keep growing. I'm not in a place where I'm like, oh my God, like if I get it wrong, da da da. And I wonder if that is something that for us as men, you know, maybe we've gone through that and experienced some of those things, you know what I'm saying to you, where sometimes we are, I keep going back to this, being afraid of getting it wrong and not necessarily being able to complete that task. So so I've just noticed that as I'm talking to you two, I'm like, well, I feel very comfortable. I feel cool. Like I'm nice. I'm like, even if I say something wrong or I'm not getting it quite correct, I'm listening to the correction or there's another point of view. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Do you know what? I need to look at it differently, or do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of relationships lack that emotional safety. And again, I always say to men that they're supposed to, they need to be able to create that environment so that they can feel safe themselves and also have the woman feel safe. And then that would then be given back onto me as well. So I do believe that as men, as leaders, I do put that on us as well, that we should be looking to emotionally create safe spaces so that I can feel safe, so that you can feel safe and you can give that back onto me. Otherwise, I can't be asking you to create an emotional safe space and then wondering what's happening. Why am I not feeling safe when you haven't actually created it? You've just said, oh, you create it. Now she's not safe because she feels like she's leading everything as well. So again, this is kind of what you're saying about it's what we're kind of saying about emotional labor, in it, in a sense, in that aspect. But I don't know if you ladies want to say something. I know Broken Berlin's going to come up in a second too, but I don't know if the ladies want to jump on that.
I kind of did. It depends too, right? Because if you are a type of person in your relationship where you hold things in a lot, how you show up or how you want to express something can show like to another person, your partner, that, oh, she's mad at me because I got such and such wrong. No, is it because you're not trying? Are you not applying yourself? Or because then how you show up with someone you're in an okay relationship with is like, it's okay, baby. We make mistakes. That's fine. You got the wrong milk. No worries about it. I don't drink milk every day. Neither do you. We just have it in the house just because, right? So if you are a type of person that's holding in a lot of things and you really need to express to your partner what's going on, but you normally don't, how you show up is going to look a little bit toxic, or it's going to look a little bit crazy because you don't really have the space to really say what you need to say. For example, if someone just had a baby, right? We normally know that like motherly nature and instincts kick in. So for the man, we're not expecting you to kind of kick in as fast, right? But it's like, okay, if you see me over here, just gave birth XYZ, are you going to take the initiative if a baby's crying? Are you going to do this? So for someone to sit here and have to tell you step by step, I can see how that can get a little bit frustrating, but to make mistakes or to do the wrong thing, that's all right. You know what I mean? We're human. We're all going to always do that. But if you're also holding things in, but not normally communicating effectively, sometimes that's on you, not the person who's receiving that information, because you're the one holding all that in. And so that's not fair to the next person because they can't read your mind.
Mm, that's good. That's good. Safe space. Uh, you know, safe space is interesting because you can have someone come to you calmly, nicely, kind, even do the good bad good sandwich, right? But the truth is, by human nature, no one wants to hear something that's not right about them, right? It's against our nature to hear bad things about us, right? So sometimes even when our partner comes to us in a loving way, what we hear is, I did something wrong. There's something wrong with me. I didn't get it right. But in actuality, your partner is just expressing that there's an area and an opportunity for growth. So sometimes the safe space isn't necessarily how your partner presents something to you, it's how you interpret it, right? So that's something that we all have to internally work on to know, okay, my partner's coming to me, but their intentions are well, you know, their intentions are well. Because I think sometimes we hear something, right? So say your partner can say something like, I don't like the way you do ABC. But what we hear is, I'm not a monster. You're calling me a monster. It's like, no, I'm expressing to you that this is an opportunity for us to grow and get closer. This is something that I'd like to see improved. So both parties have to work on that safe space. You have to work on how you interpret it and how you present it.
Now, Stacey, what you did there is really interesting, though. At the very end, you transformed the statement. So this actually is even different than a sandwich statement. What you did at the end was you transformed the statement. For instance, when you said, no, what I'm trying to tell you is something to help us connect more, you transformed the statement. You actually transformed it into a what we call it, a positive reframe. So when someone positively reframes a statement, it's much harder for the person to take it wrongly, because what you're positively putting it in step. Like if I say you talk all the time, that's a negative reframe. If I say to you, when you are talking, it also means I can't hear what you actually, when you're talking, it means I can't actually hear the TV. When I have it on the TV, that means I can't really connect with you later on. That's a positive reframe. You're now letting me know. Then the person has to go, oh, okay, cool. But if you just say like you're talking, like it's annoying, that's actually a negative reframe. So what you did at the very end, Stacey, was a positive reframe, which is what people actually don't do. They can do the sandwich method, but we're looking for positive reframe is that extra step where it's like you are doing some great things and you're looking at this, but in order for us to connect even more, I do need this from you. That's a positive reframe. That's why I said what you did was really impressive. So shout out to you for that as well. Broken Berlin, go for it. Welcome to the combo.
How you guys doing? Greece from Germany. Hope everyone's been going okay, and everyone's been blocking all the family members that have been trying to reach out and get money from them for the holidays. Hope everyone's doing good. The point I wanted to make is that, ladies, you have to understand that we have to go back to our childhood. And as young Black boys, we didn't have a safe space to communicate. I'm speaking like 80s and 90s, we didn't have a safe space to create and to talk openly with our own family, with our own mothers, and even our sisters in the house. We learned at an early age that our words are a lot of times misunderstood. And then we're defensive because we're finding out that we're always saying the wrong things that's triggering the women in our house, the women that we love, the women that so-called love us. And then it ends up happening the same way with the women that we try to love as adults. And we have to remember that this English language is not our language. It's full of spells and forked tongues and Pocahontasm and things that mean things and mean other things. And so we have so many miscommunications as Black people because this English language is not our mother tongue. And so it's very difficult sometimes when, as men, we try to articulate ourselves to the women that we care for and love. And as we articulate ourselves, we're being told we're not saying it the right way. And when you really break it down, unfortunately, when you ask women, how do you really want me to speak? How can I say this the correct way? When you really get down to it, when they describe who that man is, it's their homosexual gay friend. And we can't speak like them. We don't speak like them. We maybe don't have their education. We don't have their vernacular. And we haven't spent enough time with you as you've been as yourself because you show them a different side of you than you show us, and it is what it is. But you can't expect us to be able to communicate with you that way if we've never been taught that. Men have never taught us how to communicate with you in these ways. We never had teachers telling us how to communicate with you in a way that leads to what you guys are asking for now in 2025. So, as new men now from 2000, men are now changing. Men are now getting a little bit more sensitive. Men are now trying to become a little bit more open. And that's what we think y'all want. But now we see that y'all don't want that either. So we, as men, we don't know how to communicate because there is no safe space to communicate with you, because no matter how we speak, there's gonna be misunderstandings no matter what. So how, like, who's supposed to teach us how to create this safe space with you if we've never had the men in our lives teaching us how to create that for our mothers, for our sisters? We've never seen it.
I'm gonna let either Stacey or Queen go. I think this conversation is now gonna get very interesting. I wonder where it's gonna take it to.
I'm not trying to have an argument. I'm just breaking it
No.
down.
I don't think you are. You're giving another perspective, and I'm intrigued because obviously what we were discussing about earlier on. So I don't know if Stacey or Queen wants to take it before I pass on to Mango or another round.
Go ahead, Queen. I got your back if you need me.
No, for him, I'm glad that you are in a space where you can actually ask that question, and that's totally fine. Like earlier, what I said in the chat was, I think a lot of people are trying to meet a standard of what a relationship should look like, right? Like, a man should do this or a woman should do that. You get with your person and you ask them, hey, what do you want this relationship to look like? You know what I mean? Like, if you're stronger mentally, that's all right. I'm not. Or if you're stronger financially, it's okay. I'll make up this. Or you just make up what each other lack and just have that type of respect there. It's okay if you want to be vulnerable all the time. You have to get a person that is your person. You know what I mean? And then you have a conversation of what that relationship should look like. So then y'all can go for the long haul, right? So if you want to know how to show up as a man in that relationship, you have to know who you are first and who you want to be, right? If you want to be vulnerable, you
And
want
how
to
you
be
speak, correct?
emotional. Come again?
Wait. Let finish.
And how you speak.
Let finish. She got to land the whole point before you can reply. She got to land.
No, we're just getting clear. Okay, all right.
You
I'm
gotta
not
land.
arguing. I'm just clarifying.
I know, but how we do it here is people got to land their whole point before you
Okay.
interrupt. When to interrupt, the thought process goes. Continue, Queen.
Yeah. So if you were raised in a household where you were never taught certain things, it's okay to express to your partner and say, hey, I never learned these things, right? And they can have a conversation with you about what they learned and what they haven't learned. And together you just take the journey. There is no standard for what a healthy relationship should look like. But there are definitely some things where a healthy relationship should be, like communication with one another, something that doesn't get out of hand or disrespectful or abusive. But if I feel like if you are able to pour into them and they're able to pour into you, there's nowhere you can't go.
Okay, but I'm just focusing on what relationships sound like. And it doesn't even have to be a relationship. I think many times as men, when we try to communicate with women, we'll say something and all of a sudden we've somehow said the wrong thing that maybe was a lot of times just a misunderstanding. And so when women are saying, well, you got to say it like this, a lot of times that's not how we've ever spoken. We've never learned to speak like this. And I'm always asking, who taught you that men speak like this? Because when you really get down to it, that's where a lot of the miscommunications are coming from. I think we've all had a situation where, from your perspective, where a man said something to you and you felt offended. And then you found out later on that it was just, he didn't mean it that way. That's what happens on a daily basis, either on this space or in relationships. And until women can maybe give us some grace when we're just trying to articulate ourselves or our frustrations, and the first thing you say is, well, I didn't like the way you said it. How do you want me to say it? And then when you break that down, that's not who that person is at all.
Let me well, first of all, has your plane landed?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So first of all, I don't want to make any judgments. Um, but I do hear your frustration, and I appreciate you for asking this question. I see you and I hear you. Um, Two words come to mind. How do you want us to communicate? With care and confidence. Care and confidence. We understand that a lot of our men did not grow up with the best examples, and they're really just trying to figure this thing out. Most women have the grace for that. Absolutely. You will get grace. What you won't get is a punching bag verbally, right? So help us to help you, because we're going to be there for you. We're going to be patient, but we also have a breaking point. So if I'm kind of reading your demeanor a bit, it seems like maybe you do obviously have love within you, you have passion within you, but sometimes you say things and you're not expecting uh the response. So maybe women say, "Oh my gosh, you're too harsh," or "Why did you say it like that?" And so my advice to you would be to slow down and to also know that you don't have to rush with an answer. I think sometimes men can get frustrated because they don't know the exact answer, and that's what frustrates them and causes them to have a certain tone, you know, or certain words, right? So you have to remember, women, we're flowers, right? We are we are fragile. We want to be treated with care. So if something is about to come out of your mouth that doesn't match the beauty and the femininity of a woman, right? Not to be confused with, "Oh, you can never correct her." Oh no, we like correction, because remember I said care and confidence. So you can confidently correct us, but make sure we hear the care as well.
Okay. I don't think that women, unless they've had a father in their life and grew up with a father, understand that. I think that when women have grown up with a father, they are able to understand that, like you said, and maybe you grew up with a father. But the same way that we as men, maybe who grew up without fathers, have issues, I think women who grew up without fathers in the house have the same, not the same issues, but a different version of it. And that's, again, when you hear men saying like, "Oh, I'm trying," when you hear men saying like, "Ah, she takes what I say and she it's like a child." More than likely, she's never been told from a man who loves her about, hey, how to improve certain things like a father was supposed to. So that's where I think that comes from. And it sounds like maybe you grew up with a father and you get that you have a different perspective, but it's not most women who give grace in that. It's not true. And if we're speaking on a global scale, doesn't matter if it's black, white, Asian, once the relationship has been going on, that grace goes away. I'd say about after about 5 years, and you men in all races find themselves saying the wrong things and dealing with verbal abuse. If verbal abuse is equal to physical abuse, then I think on a global scale, men are experiencing abuse at the same extent as women are.
Let me ask you this. Outside of a
Well,
relationship.
but before you do, did you hear
Yep.
anything I said and want to respond to that or agree or disagree or before we go to the next point?
Yep, this is right in line. Trust me, I have ADHD, but I can stay on topic.
Okay.
So my question is, outside of a relationship, has anyone on the job, friends, family, ever told you that your delivery needs some work?
Yes, and I'm very articulate. Same. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I'm from Oklahoma, from the country. But if I was speaking hood, then I would have the same problem. I'm from a college campus. I try to speak as articulately as I can, but I still have the same problem. But I also didn't graduate university. So again, no matter what, I would still have that problem. I say it in the nicest tone. I'm not, yo, what the, like, I mean, we know different vernaculars. So it doesn't really matter how you speak. You're always going to be hit with that. You need to say it better. Even Kevin Samuels, who spoke it pretty educated wise as far as his vernacular. Now, he was doing other things and speaking in a different way that's here or there, but his vernacular was respectful. Whether you're being disrespectful hood style, hip hop style, nerdy style, no matter what, that line will always be used against men, which is you're not saying it the right way. And so I think it's women, you have to get past that baseline. Oh, well, you didn't say it right. Who does say it right? And if it's your father, then fine. Maybe have your father give counsel to that man to be able to receive and speak to you in that way. But if you didn't have a father in your life either, you have to give that man as much grace as you want him to give you.
Hmm. Two quick things. Again, I
Did you
hear
have a
you.
father in your life first?
I'm getting there. I'm getting
Well,
there.
I'm just okay because
I
that's a pretty
got you.
quick question to ask. I mean,
It
answer.
is, but I got you. I got you. I promise. I got you. So,
Wait, can you just answer that first and then just go on what you want to say?
absolutely, I can. Would you allow me to express myself in the way that I'd like? And I promise I'll answer your question.
Sure.
Thank you. Um, I'm talking to you as uh all the things of love. I really am. We have to be careful when we put the blame and point the finger on the other person. And the reason why I asked you if you get the same feedback outside of a relationship is because that's important context. Because now we can't just blame it on the opposite sex. And at some point, right, if we are getting the same feedback from different groups, we have to start to look within, right?
I would agree, but that only is because I worked in restaurants my entire life as a manager and a lounge owner. So of course
you got to let her land. You got to let her land, brother. You got to let her land.
I'm trying to just have an authentic conversation. I'm not interrupting. This is how bartender conversation. It's okay.
Whatever
I'm
you,
not
whatever,
okay.
My
hold on.
friend,
Whatever you do elsewhere, it's up to you. But here, I like a respectful dialogue, meaning when someone's talking, you cannot interrupt them. You have to
She
let them
stopped
land.
talking, sir.
She was
Okay.
talking. You interrupted.
Okay.
Here,
So
I
let her
want
land.
you,
Okay.
I want you, my
I'm
friend,
gonna go ahead
to,
and calm down, but I'm gonna go ahead and keep listening.
okay, no problem. I want you to look at even this instance, right? Your delivery in this instance is it's kind of going against right the flow of the conversation. So I would just say this really quickly. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It doesn't matter what language you're speaking, what school you went to. Because of whatever reasons, your delivery does not match all the time what the norm is in the room, right? So you have two choices. You can either say, is this panel's fault? It's this girl's fault because she doesn't have a father. Is this person in the restaurant's fault? Or you can say, man, I'm getting the same feedback. What am I going to do about it? Whether it be talking to a group of men at church, going on TikTok, reading books. But I encourage you to not come up with guesses and assumptions of why someone else is interpreting your words wrong, but start to self reflect. And it could be a mixture of both, right? But what's important is that we at least look within, right? Because your assumptions could be wrong. I didn't grow up with my father. I met my father when I was in my 20s for the first time in my life, right? And there are a lot of gaps that left in my life. But I made the decision to heal. I made the decision to go to therapy and do all the things. So thank you for the compliment. It means a lot, and it's proof of my healing journey that I can get on a panel and sound like someone who grew up with a father. And I want that for you. I want um I'd love that healing journey for you, or that self-development journey for you, to where you can kind of identify what is it about my tone in my presence that makes people say, hey, can you deliver that differently? And I mean that from my heart.
Well, I mean, were you also judging my body language while I was cammed up or something, or were you just judging what I was saying? And I'll ask that first.
Both, to be honest with you. You
Then
became
maybe it's not
very,
fair that you guys aren't cammed up and I'm getting the same thing. That's why I do say on these panels sometimes the conversations flow much more peacefully when everybody's cammed up. But when
I feel
everyone is maybe on avatar, that's where I see a lot of times in these situations the arguments come.
I feel
Just what
peace.
I've seen as an observation.
I feel peace. I think we're having a very peaceful conversation. But I can guarantee you that even if your camera was off, I'd still be able to recognize your frustration because of the interruptions, because of the go ahead, and because of the okay, I'm gonna cam off, right? So you're giving cues, right? And part
So it
of
seems like
the
I'm being read right now instead of being communicated with.
Berlin, you gotta wait.
Wait,
Can
oh,
I?
okay,
no,
never mind. It's okay. Thank you for your time on the platform. Just wanted to have an authentic
Don't leave,
conversation,
Berlin. Don't
But
don't
and it
leave, Berlin.
doesn't really seem
Berlin,
like it's gonna
don't do that,
work.
Berlin. Don't do
Berlin,
that,
don't
Berlin.
leave. Stay.
No,
Please
it's
stay.
okay.
Please.
Okay.
No,
I'm
please
here.
stay because I want to say something real quick.
Okay.
Please stay. Because there was a
Yes.
wonderful thing that just happened as both of you guys were speaking and whatnot. And this is what happens in relationships. And I was going to say this to what Berlin said earlier. We need to go back to childhood. Childhood did a wonderful thing for us, okay? It presented this thing that we needed to protect ourselves. The thing is called ego. However, we don't know how to put that thing aside when we get into relationships. When we chose that person to say that this is the person we wanted to be with, for some reason we keep ego up in protection from that person because we don't want to be hurt in the relationship. We don't want to feel anything negative in a relationship. And ego does this wonderful thing. It shows up in different ways and for different people. And both of you guys, ego was talking in that moment. Ego sometimes shows up a little rowdy, a little rah-rah, a little high toned. And then other times it shows up soft, deliberate, slow, but condescending. Both of y'all egos showed up. And that's why conversations and relationships do not go very far because we don't know how to put that aside and actually hear the child in the person that's no longer protected by ego. We can't hear the actual hurt and pain from the person that we call our partner, who is trying to express themselves the best way they can. Not the way we want them to, but the best way they can. You know why? Because our ego hears they're a threat. They're saying something to us that we don't like. We don't like their tone. We don't like their body language. We don't like this one choice of word that they decided to use out of all the words that they used.
You're 100% correct. Neely Fuller speaks about we must, as a community, have an ego death. So everything you said is 100% factual. And also the frustration of maybe I'm thinking once again from childhood, I'm being misunderstood when I'm trying to articulate myself as authentically and sincerely as I am, and it's coming across as condescending, which makes men shut down. So you're absolutely right.
So a wonderful thing that we as women should do when we hear something we don't understand it is use love, listen, understand, validate. I heard you say. Because sometimes my ego says, he said something else. My ego heard exactly what you said, but he said something else. So let me get this right. This is what you're saying to me. And trust me, I've gone through this in relationships before. It can get frustrating because we can go in circles of saying the same thing because the other person hasn't or you haven't decided a different way to say the same thing in a way that they get it. And it could take some time. But I have to keep asking my partner over and over, is what I'm hearing from you? Are you, this is what you're actually saying to me? Am I picking up something wrong? This is what I got. So in creating that safe space that we were talking about in the beginning is sometimes I have to ask you 3 or 4 times, do you mean this? Because when you say it like this is what I get. So when you're saying that you're feeling like you're misunderstood again, yes, because we haven't took the time to ask you, I hear you say this. Is this what you're saying? Simple question that can change the whole dynamic of the conversation. Now we're no longer in fight mode. Now we're in understand mode. Now we're starting to actually listen to each other instead of trying to talk over and get our word in and say our prayer, our piece, or whatever it is that we're feeling because of that one thing that they said 10 minutes ago.
Right, because I had the instinct to interrupt because I was feeling like I was misunderstood, so I wanted to stop the. Okay, no, yeah, you're right. Okay.
But again, did you understand me? Because this wasn't exactly about you in that moment. This is what us, a whole
Yes,
group. This is what we do.
okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to attack nobody up here or anything like that. But what I'm saying is sometimes we just need to take that beat, take that pause, breathe, let some stuff sink in. We don't have to respond right away. I think I heard one of the ladies say that already. We don't have to respond, male or female. We do not have to respond right away. We can take a moment, process it, and then repeat. Did I hear this correctly? Give that person a chance to reiterate whatever they have to say or whatever, or simple, yeah, that's what I said. Okay, is this what you meant by it? Yeah, no. And guess what? We're now having conversations. We're now actually trying to understand each other. And I don't know how y'all feel, but when a person does me like that, I feel pretty good because now I feel like somebody is actually trying to understand me. And I feel more confident to continue to have that conversation with that person.
Versus them trying to read you, which is a thing in our community. It's the norm, especially in America. I don't know if it's different for you guys in the UK, but whenever we try to have conversations or even bring solutions to a table, a lot of times it ends up turning to somebody. Well, you're this, and it's like, wait a minute, that has nothing. Why am I all of a sudden? Why are you asking about my child? Why are you asking about my school? I'm just trying to have the conversation, and now it's turning into you trying to read me to figure me out, so you can make some conclusion to walk away, and then of course probably roast as you walk away, which is what we do in America. I don't know if you guys do that in the UK, but that's our culture. We are very much a culture of miscommunications and misunderstandings.
But Berlin, I know you felt like you was read last, but she was read first.
Wait,
even though it was a complimentary read, but to say that you seem like a person that grew up with a father, that didn't just read her. That read a couple of other people in this room. And for her to come back and sit there and say, no, I just went to therapy, but thank you. See, she didn't grow up with a father, but you read her as if she did. So that in turn gave her a gateway to read you back.
Is that how okay? So now it's a tit for tat.
No, it's
okay,
not.
I see how that works. No, I'm saying
wait,
that's how it came off, and now I'm analyzing it. So because I said that kind of opened the door for her. Okay, that makes sense.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in, please? Because Broken Berlin, my love, when you started the conversation, you said that what's up with women not being able to know your intentions and getting caught up in your delivery and not just focusing on the message, right? Different
No,
words.
not right. That's not what I said.
Okay, that's okay. Well, explain to me. Do you mind?
What the very first thing that I said when I came up is that many times men try to articulate themselves to women with care, with sincere, and it's turned back to them and saying that you're not saying it the right way. And the thing that I asked, or so far, are we okay?
Yep, that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Okay, and then I followed that up in saying, when you really break it down and get to the grassroots of it, and asking these women, how do you really want me to articulate this to you? And how do you want me to speak and what type of vernacular? When they really break it down, it sounds like they're homosexual Black friends, which again, we don't know how to speak like them because we haven't been in the environments with you with that sort of care or that sort of vulnerability that you've offered them. You haven't given to us. So we don't know how to communicate with you in that way or that tone where you feel safe with them, but you feel triggered by us.
Got you. You just did the same thing to me. So let me clarify. everything about me is peace and love, right? Which is why I started the conversation thanking you for having the courage to ask the question. I feel like I said, several times to make it a safe space to let you know we're on the same team, right? I'm rooting for you. So if something that I said made you feel like it was tit for tat, even me saying the thank you, there was no shade in that. Zero shade in that. There was no tit for tat in anything that I said. That was a genuine thank you. That was not shade.
You didn't say thank you. So how can I know that that was a genuine thank you?
I did, babe. I said, I'll take that as a compliment. That's a testament to my
I'll take
therapy.
that as a
Thank you.
compliment. That means you're thinking that I'm saying it to you as an insult. I'll take that as a compliment. That's not a.
No, correction.
And
And
maybe
forgive me,
it's because I
Birdman,
have a
for
different English
interrupting
than you
you.
have a different English.
She
Who
did
knows?
say thank
Again, this
you.
English
She
language.
did say
The
thank
first
you.
thing I said is that this is not our language in the first place, and that's why we have so many miscommunications. This is not my mother tongue. I mean, my English is my mother tongue, but it's not what my English language is. I'm not supposed to be speaking this language. It was put on me through the system of white supremacy. So the same thing with maybe yours, or maybe you have a different, I don't know if you have come from a different country, maybe you have an original tongue. I don't know. But I'm saying that my English is full of miscommunications. And that's why us as Black Americans, we have so many violent altercations with each other, because most of our violence comes about us being miscommunicated or misunderstandings. So I always say that you can't get caught up in the English words getting you upset. It's about the intentions, and my intentions on this conversation were sincere and pure. I didn't come up here on, oh man, you didn't hear any of that. My demeanor and everything has been trying to be cadent, and wait, that's not the right word, sincere and at a lower vibration where you don't think that I'm coming across jovial or joking about this or da, da, da. Which again, if you speak with most, or if you've ever spoken with Black Americans who aren't educated, I'm not educated, dropped out at 14. Lower class Black Americans, we have a different vernacular. We just do. Will that come across to maybe another Black American who's from higher education? It's a lot of times there's a discommunication, like, oh, well, you didn't say it right. Well, I'm sorry, I'm from where I'm from, and I speak how I speak. And if I'm trying to speak to you sincerely, and you're saying, you need to change your tone or change how your delivery, do I need to go to higher education to learn how to do this? How am I supposed to learn this?
I think, are you done?
Yes.
I want to make sure I'm not cutting you off, but I think that I kind of gave you, some things that you can start out with. But I just want to make it clear that
You said go to
I'm not
TikTok and therapy, right?
therapy. I mentioned a men's group in your community, maybe a men's small group at church. But I just want to make it clear that there is no judgment. I'm not reading you. I'm not judging you. I'm not looking down on you. I'm sincerely giving advice as someone who is extremely able to feel people. I sincerely feel love for you, which is why it's 11:37 at night and I'm talking to you. So our interaction, our conversation just proved the topic of the night, that even when our intentions are pure, we can still be misunderstood, right? And that can go
Yes.
for both of us, because I don't think that you got on here with bad intentions. I think that you're pouring out your heart and you sincerely want answers. But I want you to know that my intentions are to help you and to care for you. Remember when I said I see you and I hear you? I meant that. So I just want you to know that.
Okay.
So this conversation's been really interesting. I'm going to tell you, it's been fascinating to watch. I can't lie to you. I've loved every second of it. I'm going to call ball on both of you. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. All right, both of you are on some ball. Okay, you both were offended, and it's okay to say you were offended. I'm gonna be honest with you, because I think we're doing this really educational stuff, and I love it. But I'm gonna say the real thing. Both of you are pissed off, and that's okay. Because when Berlin came in, he came in hot. I ain't gonna lie to you, Berlin, you came in hot. Your tone was hot. Your energy was hot. The things you said was hot. Because you put generalizations, you put the all. It was hot. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Hot, sir. I've seen you on panels with us as Americans. I did not speak, fam. You've seen hot. I didn't give anything hot.
I'm gonna explain it. You came in hot.
Okay.
You did. You came in hot because the way that you formulated your points of view was not in alignment with the room how it was before, right? And I already knew when you're coming in, you're gonna dislodge the energy. I'm not mad at it. It's actually
then my bad. My goal was not to fuck up the flow. Again, that's why I tried to leave earlier, and you guys tried to keep me up here. And so again, I'll go back in the chat.
No, don't go back in the chat.
Thank you so much for your time on the panel, and maybe we can try it another time.
No, you don't.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
No, don't go. We're breaking something down. I'm back to. Oh, okay. Well, then he's gone. Because I was about to break down. Also, because of that, he came in hot. I also knew that Stacey, as much as you were great at holding it back, he was pissing you off, and you were trying to hold it, but you do what I do, which is when people start pissing me off, I ain't gonna lie to you. You're gonna get this educational work. I'm just gonna be real with you. And I'm not mad at it because I understood where both of you were coming from, right? Because he came in hot. The conversation was not that energy, bro. You know what I'm saying to you? But it's a perfect illustration of what happens in relationships. Like Jay did a better job than I would have done. Do you know what I mean? When Jay came in, she came and decided. Me personally, I was coming to knock over some to knock over some pinballs. But you know, the reality of the situation is, in the conversation, he came in a bit too hot, and the conversational energy shifted, and it moved away from us having a rounded conversation. I'm not mad at it because, again, I think it highlighted how hard it is to have these conversations with each other when we feel some type of way. Do you know what I'm saying to you? We feel some type of way in that space. I wish he hadn't gone because I was going to ask him a question, but I can only ask it to the ladies now. I can't ask it to him anymore. But I was going to ask Stacey because Stacey was one that actually did majority of talking. I know Queen also spoke as well, and I can ask Mango after as well, right? But Stacey, I want your see so we can have the real conversation. We unleash it. Truly, how did you feel when he came at you the way he came at you? Or no, when he came at the panel the way he came at you? Because you know, I was sensing some, you know, some energy too. Not like, you know, you ain't trying to be rude, but I mean, I felt like he affected your energy a little bit. If I seen that correctly, or am I incorrect? Please let me know your thoughts and your real time processing in that moment.
He impacted me 0%. He pissed me off 0%. He made me upset 0%. As soon as he started talking, I immediately knew, okay, he sincerely is seeking help. And so, yes, you heard me go into an educational mode, but why? Because sometimes people need specific real-time examples to help them see where they need to improve. And so, in order to be real with him, I had to point out specific things because sometimes that's the only way we can develop. I'm not a sugarcoater. I will always be kind, but I will always be straight up. And so from the very beginning, when he began talking, my heart went out to him. So I laugh because intentions, right? They can be misunderstood. I'm just one of those people that connect, maybe because of my childhood and all the things that I've gone through. When I hear people speak and talk about their journeys, right? I feel a connection and I want to help. And so if you heard me, quote unquote, try to read him or get it educational, it's because I wanted to give him real life examples. Because too many times people don't know how to express exactly how someone can improve. Instead, they just say, I don't like how you said that. Well, why not? What do you mean? Right? So I mean it when I say like my heart went out to him. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Fair play. Yes,
He
Queen.
he knew exactly what he was doing when he came in with that type of energy. Notice how he didn't have the same energy when it came to Jai, putting him in his place a little bit compared to Stacy, where she's more soft tone with it, where Jai was more like a she, serious and direct tone with him, and there was no cutting her off. So certain people like that, they know what they're doing. And in that instance too, you came in here with an issue about communication, but then yet you're in here no more than 5 minutes, and everybody in the room and in the chat can pick up on why you have problems with certain women, and he doesn't like to be called out, hence him leaving and running out so fast, right? Especially you about to call him out as a man, right? On that. As women, you can go back and forth, but when a man is telling you what the issue could possibly be, you don't kind of want to hear it, right? So he knew what he was doing at the end of the day, but the people in the chats are calling it out for what it is. He's not a pleasant person, and every woman doesn't have to like you, right? He's an off-putting person, and certain people need to understand, like, hey, if you offend someone, they no longer want to deal with you, and they no longer want to clarify where you're coming from because they no longer care to understand you.
Fair play. I'm not really mad at it. You get me? Fair play. I can't be mad at it because, like I said, you guys were having a conversation. He was a bit hot still. And shout out to Stacey too. If you got love for him, because I don't really have love for any of y'all. I'm gonna lie to you. When people piss me off, you piss me off. I'm sorry. That's why I have love. Hey, I ain't gonna lie to you. Like when he came in, I didn't have that 0%. My immediate. That's the emotional labor that I do. My immediate thought process was, I got to make sure if he goes too far, I'm ready to mute him and remove him. I'm sorry. Maybe maybe it better be, because I ain't gonna lie to you. If anybody comes in hot, I'm already ready to go. Do you get what I mean? But maybe that's more work I need to do. So I'm hearing you on that. Get me? Mango, we haven't heard from you. I apologize, man. Do you know what I mean? Oh wait, sorry, Steve. Do you want to say something? Apologies. I saw you open your mic. Apologies. Go for it, and then I'll get Mango in.
Really quick, I'll just say I think the grace from my part comes from, we talked a lot about childhood. In our childhood, we are taught what is normal. So if someone is behaving in that manner, guess what? That means that other people behave the same way to him. Right? So in his brain, it's hard to comprehend what's the problem. So and so did this. This is how I grew up. The harshness. Clearly, there's some harshness in his childhood, right? And he represents so many other Black men out there. So it's like I'm talking to him, but all I could hear was Black men in the same situation crying out, right? So I think that's where a lot of my grace comes from, because our childhood teaches us what's normal. And so he's just repeating what everybody else did around him.
Hey, I'll definitely hear on that one. I ain't gonna lie to you. Mango, how we doing? Listen, you can give us your thoughts on the conversation, and then I can ask you a question after about the topic we were talking about.
Okay. My thoughts on the conversation is I'm gonna fast forward into repair. I think a lot of us do not know what repair means, in the idea of, hold on a second, let me hang up this phone. Right? When we're having conversation and it doesn't go right, or ego gets in the way, that time that we need to take to like regroup, reflect, and then come back and say, my feelings were a little hot during that conversation. There's a different way I could have handled that. But this idea of like we're working towards perfect communication, there's no such thing. Learning repair, the actual skill of repair, and ego death is not a thing. We all going to have ego. Ego is going to show up. The skills that we're going to learn is how to recognize when ego shows up. How to recognize, oh, my feelings are hurt. And to be able to say, look, my feelings hurt. I need to take a time out. And we're going to come back and do this conversation again. That's what make a thriving relationship, whether it's in friendship, in family life, or in a husband and a wife situation. So I think for someone to even build the skill of repair, They have to be willing to take reproof. They have to be willing to say, I'm wrong. They have to be having like a curiosity bucket that says, I'm open to learning. I'm open to growth. But if you have a stuck mindset where you're unable to see other people's perspective, you're unable to be curious about what another person is, who they are, how they see themselves, you don't have the openness to get there, to build community, whether it's, again, as a family member or as a husband and wife situation. And that work, that honest work, is going to take understanding yourself. Because if you can't give yourself grace, you can't give it to anybody else. And there's a lot of time we use our own bullying of ourselves to get things done. Oh, I'm super exhausted, but I got to do this. It's the same way we treat other people too. It starts from within. That's what I have to say about the whole conversation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, Mango, we are talking about emotional labor, and we, and that conversation, I guess, encapsulated the emotional labor that people are doing in relationships. Yeah, we were just having a general dialogue. I think myself, Stacey, and Queen were just harmonizing, man. We had different points of. We were not saying different points of view per se, but we were coming from different angles, and we're just harmonizing around that topic. And just kind of giving our points of view around emotional labor and how we need to communicate and actually learn how to give each other grace, create safe space. That's what we actually got to. We actually got to the place before the conversation shifted. We're talking about creating a safe space for dialogue like this as well. So I don't know if you have any thoughts around emotional labor, around creating a safe space for us to even have certain, difficult conversations. What would be your viewpoint on that around emotional labor or creating safe spaces to have difficult conversations when we're in relationships with people?
I have several statements on that because it's something I've been personally working on for years with myself and with my partner. So to create safe space, there has to be trust. And even when you don't know it for yourself, but the fact that you're trusting to mirror, because that's what a relationship is, right? Somebody is going to mirror the behavior that you may not even like in yourself, and you don't recognize it until you see it in another person. If you've been in a relationship before and it's just been for the aesthetics, but you haven't brought your true whole self to the table, defense mode is always going to be on the table. But if you come to it and you're like, I don't know it all, we're learning from each other. When the trigger happens and you have positive regards. So good positive regards means I know this person mean well. They may say things that may trigger me, that may make me upset, but ultimately I know their core. They're a good human. They're a good person. They're good people. They mean well. That idea alone gives you a safe space to be vulnerable because you have good positive regards for them and they have the same for you. And when they're going off the rail on something that may trigger you or upset you, you're able to recognize, oh, it's the thing. It's not they're a horrible person and there's something wrong with them. Oh, this is the conversation we're having. This thing is what we need to get through right now. We're not going to personal attacks with words or with hands, right? We're taking that time to break down that wall and to build the idea of what it means to have good positive regard. We have to literally look at each other, genuinely like each other, care about our well-being, our mindset, our physical health, where our future is going. We need to be like literally having those conversations in order to be like, oh, I see them. I see them fully for who they are in the level that where they haven't learned, where they still need to learn, and even in the mistake they can make. And I can come to them and say, look, my heart is hurting. What you did was just very offensive and it hurt me. And on the personal end, I'm going to say that I've been through this process with my partner. And even though like we got to the place where we're sharing and it's being truthful, it took every time he will get triggered, it took me going, you know what? I can't do this back and forth anymore because you're getting too triggered. For him to finally let down the mask and say, you know, I just didn't want to get hurt. I was holding back because, you know, society tells me if a woman really cares about you and reach out to you, there must be something else in it for her. Or, you know, what did he call it? Playing the red pill game a little bit, because you can't love a woman way too much now. Because if you do, and then something goes wrong, your friends is gonna think like you're stupid because you let your heart get broken. So there's all this like men go through this bonding experience that they go through with each other, that they don't even realize like they're literally writing down like Bible verses onto their soul. Oh, if you, he used to say, "Oh, I'm on the phone with you so many hours." It just makes me a little uncomfortable. I've never been on the phone with this type of person, because in his back of his mind, his friends tell him, "You a sucker if you on the phone with somebody too long." So all these little masking things that men do when they finally are able to let it go and feel safe with somebody who have positive regard for them, it comes up. It comes up, and it doesn't come up nicely. And the only way we can truly be able to like understand what are those things they build up in their body is by being curious and asking questions. Not by saying, "Oh, you have toxic masculinity. Why are you listening to your friend and you being a sucker?" It's just listening, hearing, and then analyzing with him. Now, to be fair, and I'm gonna say this man is a physician. So he has the therapy knowledge. He knows Erickson. He knows all the theories within childhood development. He's an OBGYN. So this is somebody who has the education, has the language, thought that he did all the work that he needed to do to be healed, until he met someone like me who's curious and wants to ask questions and pull things out of him, to be able to get to the place where it's like, "Oh, I'm avoidant. That's what I am," because society reward men who are avoidants, because it shows stoicism. It shows that you're strong. You have the ability to provide. Nothing touches you. You shouldn't show your feelings too much, because your first line, and these are his words, by the way, right? Your first line defense to make sure the family is well. So you're not supposed to look weak at all. You're supposed to make sure providing and protecting is what you can do. And I have to say, but you're a human too. Feeling emotion, being able to share those emotions is part of the process. So that's my take on it.
Some deep things there, man. I get you. Some deep things there, man. Bringing us into a deeper sounding mind and process as well. So I'm enjoying the convo. Jay, welcome back, kind of around. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, man? It was an interesting conversation. Of course, I guess you can say your thoughts, and I'll ask you the same question I asked Mango about communication and emotional safety. But obviously, I'm sure you have your own opinion. I know you was mediating, but I'm sure you have your own opinion.
It's interesting to be on the outs a little bit, because I'm usually on the ends.
Because last time it was you. Last time he was like you.
You know, and I can be an emotional creature sometimes, you know. Yeah, I be having to calm myself. But yeah, learning to breathe through the conversation sometimes, you know, that it's not easy. It's not easy. Sacrificing your thoughts and opinions sometimes. That's going to go back to the ego thing, because it's just a protection. It's a protection mechanism. Ego is really a protection mechanism for us to be out there in the world and not get hurt by other people's thoughts, opinions, judgments, or physicalities. And it's a hard thing to let down. And I'm not sure which one of the ladies said it earlier, but it's like they said, it's hard to hear somebody tell you about yourself. But once you get into a space that knowing that the only thing that you can ever control in this world and the longest relationship you'll ever have is yourself. And once we get into that space of understanding I'm the only thing that I can actually work on and change and make a difference for myself, that's when we get into a space of learning how to appreciate other people's opinions of us. And like a thing I like to tell my daughter all the time is, you can hear everybody's opinion of you. That doesn't mean that you have to change anything about yourself for them. If you don't feel like it's something that is necessary for you to change in that moment, that's a priority for you to change, or this is like how it's been said to you several times before, that, hey, maybe you should work on it, then don't. But it's people's opinions does not make or break you, to be honest with you. Like, that's not something to hang your hat on. So if your partner is sharing their thoughts of you to you, you should be open enough to at least listen and hear them out. This is a person that you supposedly care about. You would love to hear what strangers on the street think about you, whoever you want to please on the YouTubes and internet and IG and all that stuff. You want to hear all the likes, that feeds the hearts, all of this stuff like this. You want all of those praises there, but the one person that you hold dear to your heart, you don't want to listen to their praises, whether they're good or bad. And a lot of times ego stops us from receiving messages which are saying, this characteristic of you is not a very becoming one. It's not a bad one. It's not a great one. It's just one that could be improved on in some areas. And it's okay for the person I'm dealing with on a daily basis, who I want to deal with forever on a daily basis. It's okay for them to tell me how I can coexist with them. It should be okay for them to be able to say, hey, this does not work for me in this moment, and vice versa. Because I would want that same respect from that person too, when I want to say, hey, this doesn't work for me. When we talk about the mirroring of people and stuff like that, a lot of times we're mirroring people in relationships is because we're actually trying to find a way to coexist with them. If you think about a mirror, if I'm constantly telling a mirror what it needs to fix, at some point the mirror is telling me what to fix too. So with that thought in mind, and I know it sounds probably a little confusing because of how I'm saying it, but with that thought in mind is that if I expect to be able to tell you about yourself, I should expect that you should be able to tell me about myself. So at the same token, as much as I want to be able to tell you any type of way, I still have to take care, because in return, I'm going to want you to take care. Our love should be a reciprocating cycle that's ever going with each other. And if that doesn't show in our communication, in our way that we communicate or attempt to communicate with each other, then maybe we should stop fighting with that person and just go find a person that we could better suited communicate with to start with. And I don't want to say give up on a relationship just that easy like that. And I'm going to stop on this rant tangent. But what I'm saying is that if you keep finding it so difficult to have just a regular conversation and get your point across with that person, and you understand them and they understand you, maybe that's just not your person. And you should stop fighting that part of it as well. And I'll just land right there.
Well, listen, we've reached the 3-hour mark, so the end of the line has arrived. But I want to say thank you very much for the participation of you ladies, and also of Berlin. I think it's been an enthralling conversation. Having multiple eclectic voices on this. I know next week is Christmas Day, bro. No, Christmas Eve. I'll be back Christmas Eve because I'm gonna be at home. I ain't doing that. But this has been a great conversation. I think this has been really helpful to really help us be able to kind of have a better understanding of communication and stuff. And I think my final thoughts on this was, I think watching the conversation, it was interesting because you can almost see it from the very beginning what's going to happen. Me and Trey were in the chat as well. And as soon as you started, Trey was like, you know, and I think for any man kind of watching out there in that aspect, right? And this is why I was talking about leadership and talking about us creating a safe space. We had created a safe space. So much so that Jay was able to actually ask him some questions. What I didn't ask him, be able to let him know that maybe he should look at things differently, you know, and see that, you know, maybe the way he's approached the situation. And I think for anybody in any situation, I might slightly disagree with Jay here. But I'll say to you, if they've told you 4 or 5 times, my Negro, change it. I'm sorry. If they've told you 4 or 5 times, yeah, go and change it. Because you know what? You the problem. Like, you know, like if
Change it or change them.
I think you need to change it. You know what I mean? Like if they keep telling you that you're annoying or you don't know how to have a conversation, I think you need to be able to rein that in, especially because specifically him, the atmosphere was not that. Myself, Stacey, and Queen had a conversation where we were really, and remember, and the funny thing is, I just said to Stace and I just said to Queen, I feel so safe in this environment. Like even if you correct me, I'm gonna take it because we're having such a deep conversation where I'm not hearing you trash men or trash, you know, me in general. You're giving a different point of view. You're saying things a little bit more differently. Yeah, you're gonna say things, and so that is such a powerful thing. I felt safe. And then immediately I knew it was gonna happen, yeah. And it's because, again, sometimes people are not self-aware about how they move. The room needed to be read. The room is having a conversation where eclectic voices of intelligence are dispensing information. And in short, what I'm saying to you is we're having a decent conversation. and then, you know, I think this happens for both men and women, but I'm just talking about what he did. Myself, Stacey, and Queen, when we were talking about it, right, we spoke about, okay, men, maybe we need to look at this and look at that, and then we can change that. When he came up, the immediate thing he said was, and women do this. And I said, I know where it's going to go. It's going to go left. Because the immediate thing wasn't he may not see it that way, but it was an immediate attack. And I can understand why, because maybe he's a bit frustrated already. Maybe when he heard the conversation, he's hearing men get a lot of the blame. And I can understand that because if he jumped in the conversation at a certain point in time, he'd have missed the context and the spirit of the conversation we were having. The spirit and the nature of the conversation we're having was exchanging of ideas. So Stace asked me a question earlier on. It threw me off. I was like, blood, I started answering. I didn't know. I was like, wait, I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. And so sometimes we just, you know what? You're going to see my video come out tomorrow. My favorite thing now for us in 2026, my word of the season, is sometimes you just need to shut up. This goes to everybody. It's not just to him. Sometimes just shut up. Because sometimes when you speak, you add way much more fuel to the fire than is actually needed. Sometimes we need to open the 2 ears, open them like Dumbo, and just keep it there and hold it for a little while and just listen to the flow of the conversation so that when we come in, we can also match the flow. You know what I'm saying to you? So we can match the flow so that it's flowing nicely. You know what I mean? You know, so that it's going well. And I think in some of the instances when if I've told him 3 times, like, yo, wait till it lands. I want to have a productive. No, wait till it lands. I want to have it. No, wait till the person lands. And so those things are showing you're excited, but it needs to be constructed in a way that's not disruptive. so that you're also flowing with the conversation, so you can add to it in a correct manner, right? That's a level of social intelligence, recognizing the flow of the conversation so that you don't take it left. That's why when Jay and Mango came in, you see the flow of the conversation has gone back to where it needs to go back to, which is we're having intellectual conversation where we're exchanging ideas, and it's not about trying to find out the women or find out the men. It's just an exchange of ideas. And so I think that's also an important skill as well. So I want to appreciate the ladies, and I'm always welcome. I want the men to come up. Of course, I want more men to come up. You know what I'm saying to you? But I also want the men to also pay attention. You know what I'm saying to you? You're coming in. I've created a culture where both men and women are respected for their opinions. Yeah, washing would. Oh, I think that's him there in the chat. He says, I can only do this by body language. It's difficult to do this online without seeing a person. I hear you, bro, but it wasn't your body language that was causing the issue. It's actually your tone and then the things you actually said. So if you watch it back, just watch it back when you first came in. I would say watch it back when you first came in, review how you said it, and I'd say pay attention to tone. Tone is a massive thing for a lot of people, including myself. I don't like certain tones because tone can also tell us where your heart is to as well. So just watch it when you first came in, and then pay attention to how the conversation energy shifts. You said you didn't want to debate, but it became a debate. So you know what I mean? So if you didn't want that result, how come you got that result? Do you get what I'm saying? So if you just pay attention to that and change the way that we're operating, it'll move differently. Do you get me? But look, when we have the men's panel, you can do whatever you want, mate, because we as men, we do that a lot all the time. We battle all the time, but this wasn't one of those conversations, all right, cool. Listen, audience, thank you very much. I appreciate you. I want to say again, thank you very much, Nisha, for sending us the super chats. Thank you, Mango. Thank you, Stace. Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much, Queen, because this has been a very insightful conversation. I can't wait to another conversation that we'll have, maybe next week as well, and continue on with some more, more distinct conversations. You know what I'm saying to you? So I hope he comes back so we can actually, have more conversation. I hope more men come as well, so that we can really help each other go forward as well. But my time and our time has come to an end. Audience members, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Be safe, be friendly, be something. I don't know. I don't know, but we gotta go.